Douluo, after listening to the advice, I became a god. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276 Activate the Martial Spirit. After knowing the academy where Yunqi was, he also used his power. Although he intervened a little bit, it was harmless. But he didn't expect them to be the first to suspect him. Emperor Zuyi also noticed something was wrong, but considering that there were two heavyweights around him, he didn't say anything. He just looked at his brother coldly behind him. At this time, everyone in Tandu Royal Academy saw that they were old opponents. Although they were a little unhappy at the beginning, it was not a hatred, so they greeted them directly. Wrong, you are here, be gentle later. Yi Lingling, with a cold temperament, still greeted Ning Rong after seeing her. Ning Rong also smiled in response. As for the familiar Oslo and others, they also smiled and said, "It's been a long time since we last met. Let's just show our respect." Dao Wu and others nodded to what Yi Lingling and Oslo said, but they didn't take it to heart at all. Yunqi was in the stands at this time, watching this scene and smiled. In fact, it was not so easy for Dao Wu and the others to fight against the people from Tandu Royal Academy. So as the captain, he also put Tang San on the stage. Both sides salute. Non-participants leave the stage. With the words of the host, the discussion of the Tandu Royal Academy was interrupted. After both sides bowed and saluted, they stared at each other in a daze. Yu Tang stood in the front of the Tandu Royal Academy. The Shi brothers were protecting Yi Lingling. Zhu Guyan was also in the protection range. Yu Feng and Oslo were on the flanks. On the Lanba Academy side, there were not so many rules. They stood randomly, but only protected Jiangzu and Ning Rong in the middle. VIP seats. Emperor Zuyi looked at the stage with a smile, and said to Ning Fengzi beside him, "Master Ning, it seems that this first game will be a foregone conclusion." Emperor Zuyi did not see Yunqi on the stage. He was relieved. He thought the rest were just simple vases, because Dao Wu and the others rarely took action. So many people did not know their information. As for Yu Tan, the Emperor of Tandu knew everything. After all, he joined the Tandu Royal Academy. As the dean, how could he not have information? Ning Fengzi smiled slightly and nodded in agreement, but he had another idea in his heart. Of course, he was optimistic about his daughter's Lanba Academy. There was no doubt about that. After all, although his good son-in-law was a bit of a bastard, he took good care of his girlfriend. Even his daughter had reached level 37, so it was conceivable. And she also took the fairy grass. On the other side, the Platinum Bishop Saras suddenly said, "Master Ning, can you tell me, among the 28 Soul Master teams you favored before, which one is the champion contender you mentioned?" Ning Fengzi smiled and said, "Sir Saras, isn't it good to be a little mysterious? I think you must have a team you support." Saras said with a fake smile. "So, Master Ning is unwilling to reveal it?" Ning Fengzi smiled indifferently and said, "This is our own secret, and it seems to have nothing to do with Sir Saras." Saras's face obviously darkened. His eyes collided with Ning Fengzi in front of Emperor Zuyi, and neither of them avoided it at all. Yunqi noticed it. With the development of his mental power, he naturally felt every move over there. Seeing this, his eyes were full of strangeness. He couldn't help but mutter in his heart, "Aren't both sides our own people?" After thinking about this carefully, Yunqi also smiled. As early as when he was in Notting City, he had contacted the Spirit Hall through Master Mashinuo, and naturally he entered the vision of the Spirit Hall's top leaders. It was just because of Yun Feng's own reasons that he declined the invitation of the Spirit Hall and did not go directly. But the authority he should have was not reduced at all. It's just that many people don't know, and only a few people know about this situation. That's right. Both sides don't know that Yunqi has a relationship with the other side. The Spirit Hall does know a little that Ning Rong and Yunqi are together, but it's not someone he, the bishop, can contact. Up to now, the only ones who have contacted Yunqi are Ghost Buo and Chrysanthemum Luo, as well as Pope Bibi Dong. It's normal for the people below not to know. The same is true for Ning Fengzi. Ning Fengzi has used the resources in his hands to investigate Yunqi's life trajectory over the years. There is no possibility of contacting the spirit hall. Naturally, he would not think of this. That's why this tit-for-tat scene occurred. Emperor Zhu Yi, who was sitting in the middle, frowned slightly and tried to smooth things over. Don't worry, the two of you will naturally have a result after the competition is over. Bishop Sarat, what Sect Master Ning said is right. It's his business who he supports. Look, I can't ask this question, although I am also curious. Although Emperor Zhu Yi said so, he was very happy to see Ning Fengzi and Bishop Sarat in conflict. After all, the empire is weak. This is what he wants to see most. The seven treasure-glazed sect and the empire have a chance to resist the spirit hall. After all, they don't know the hidden titled BUO of the spirit hall, and they think there are only a few on the surface. Platinum Bishop Saras glanced at Emperor Zhu Yi, and seeing that there was no result, he said calmly, "Your Majesty is right. Let's watch the game." Prince Zhu Xing, who was sitting in the second row, said to everyone around him proudly, "Look, Your Majesty and Sect Master Ning have already seen that there is no suspense in this game. The students of our Tandu Royal Academy are the real elites. This time, our home team has only one goal, which is the final championship. Tandu Royal Academy is under his charge. If he can achieve good results, his face will naturally be glorious." What the hell are these words? Lanba Academy. Ning Fengzi's face was full of question marks. When did he say that he was optimistic about Tandu Royal Academy? After understanding it, he also knew that these people had misunderstood his meaning. There was no explanation, just smiled and didn't say anything. The first round of the first game of the preliminaries officially begins. At the signal of the referee, the first preliminaries of this year's All-Continent Advanced Soul Master Academy Elite competition officially began. It is somewhat similar to fighting spirits. The competition gives both sides 1 minute to open their martial spirits. Juzukin was the most mature one here. Yunqi had also told her before she went on the field, "Let Juzukin be the vice-captain." No one had any objections. When the referee shouted start, Juzukin's eyes also burst out with unprecedented fighting spirit. After following Yunqi for so long, she also wanted to prove her strength. With a delicate voice, she shouted, "Open your martial spirit." The shadow of the nether spirit cat appeared behind her and completed the possession in an instant. Chapter 277. It's my turn to perform next. When both sides released their martial spirits at the same time and all the spirit rings appeared in front of the audience, the sound of surprise spread in the audience. 2 yellow and 1 purple, 3 spirit rings flashed brilliantly on Juzuking, and Zhao Wu and others who stood beside her also released their martial spirits. The spirit rings flashed, all 3 spirit rings. Only Lan Ba's original students had 3 rings, but they were also the best configuration. Tandu Royal Academy was also dumbfounded, looking at Zhao Wu, Juzuking, and Ning Rongnarong. They rubbed their eyes unconsciously, counted carefully. The voice was trembling. This spirit power? You have to know that they have only upgraded 2 levels during this period. This is still under the condition of working hard day and night. Reached level 40. The rest of the people are also similar. Basically, it's the same. There is no change. After all, who can upgrade so quickly? So when seeing Zhao Wu and others' spirit rings, Yu Tanning and others were so shocked. Yunqi sat above, and saw Yu Tanning's open mouth, and the corners of his mouth also rose slightly, obviously very happy. After a brief moment of shock, Yu Tanning and the others looked at each other, knowing that even if Yun Feng was not there, this battle would be very difficult to win. Their expressions were solemn. Emperor Zhu Yi's expression also changed, and he looked at Ning Fengzi's smiling face. At this time, he also reacted. "Is this the team you are optimistic about?" Ning Fengzi smiled and nodded, looking at his daughter on the field with gentle eyes. "Your Majesty, my daughter is also in this Lanba Academy." At this time, Sarah's heart was full of strangeness. Looking at Ning Fengzi's daughter on the field, his eyes suddenly widened a lot. His voice was rapid and trembling. "Ning, Sect Master Ning, your daughter is at the 9th level?" Zhu Yi, Zhu Xing and the others also noticed the changes in Ning Fengzi's daughter's martial spirit. Their faces changed drastically. After carefully looking at the exquisite little tower, Their eyes were full of shock. There was no way. Who on the mainland didn't know the limitations of the Seven Treasures glazed sect? Because there was only a seven-story tower, the attached spirit rings could never break through the soul saint. And now what did they see? 9 levels! What does this mean? With the auxiliary nature of the Seven Treasures glazed pagoda, if one reaches the titled Buo, how great will the improvement be? Zuyi's expression was inexplicable. Soon, an idea came to his mind. Can they be closer relatives? He has 2 sons. He can't count on Zhu Beng. But Zhu King is Ning Fengzi's apprentice. What's wrong with prying a girl out of his corner? Sarah's heart was also full of intense psychological activities. Ning Fengzi's expression remained the same, but he could feel that the atmosphere here was beginning to be wrong. He didn't explain anything, just laughed. My daughter is lucky. The 9-story glazed pagoda cannot be copied. What a pity. On the field, all the spectators were dumbfounded at this time, looking at the Tandu royal team. Except for 2 level 40, the rest were all 3 rings. And the unknown and unpopular Blue Tyrant Academy actually has such strength, and the martial spirit seems to suppress the opponent a little. Moreover, they have put all their family assets on it. Now they can only hope that the Tandu royal team will perform exceptionally. Dao Wu looked at the shocked expressions of Yu Tanheng and the others. A hint of amusement also appeared on her face. Why don't you do it? The preparation time has passed. Dao Wu's words also woke up Yu Tanheng and the others. Zhu Guyan and Yu Tanheng looked at each other. Although there was a solemn look in their eyes, their fighting spirit was unusually high. They also wanted to prove themselves. Especially they didn't want to lose in front of Yun Feng. Especially Zhu Guyan, looking at Yun Feng on the stage, always unconsciously thought of the words Yun Feng had said to him. Before he could react, Zhu Zuqin disappeared from the spot with strange steps. When she finished preparing, the characteristics brought by the martial spirit were like being invisible, and no one noticed. This was a competition, equivalent to a battlefield. Being stunned on the battlefield itself was a big taboo. The opponent was stunned, but Lan Ba and the others would not. They had followed Yun Qi for so long, they had seen it all. When Zhu Guyan and Yu Tanheng looked at each other, Zhu Zuqin took the lead and ran directly to Yi Lingling on the opposite side. It was not until Oscar screamed that Yu Tanheng and the others reacted. The 2 brothers Shimo and Shimo didn't see anything at all. They just felt a gust of wind passing by them. After Zhu Zuqin succeeded in 1 blow, she immediately fled away, not giving any chance at all, even if she had the ability to get rid of the opponent. At the beginning of the game, Tandu Royal Academy seriously injured 1 person. Fortunately, Yi Lingling's soul power was not consumed much. The moment she felt the pain, she directly released her soul skills. She quickly recovered from her injuries. In fact, Zhu Zuqin could have killed the opponent directly. But since Ning Rongarong and Yi Lingling knew each other, and with the power of Yi Lingling's family, she finally gave up. But it's better to consume more, and the rules of the game are like this, so don't worry at all. Seeing Yi Lingling being beaten like this, Yu Tanheng and others were instantly anxious. This is the group pet in their team. As for Zhu Guyan, she didn't expect that Zhu Zuqin would be so heavy. Yu Tanheng took the lead. His muscles swelled and he rushed straight towards Xiao Wu and the others. Ning Rongarong was not idle either. The 3 soul rings behind him shone together. Yellow, yellow and purple. They turned into streams of light and flew towards all the people on his side. 9 treasures turn into colored glaze. 9 treasures have a name. One is power. 9 treasures turn into colored glaze. Strength increase, agility increase, soul power increase. In an instant, it was blessed on everyone. Dao Wu felt the surging power in her body and smiled at Ning Rongarong. Next, it's my turn to perform. After saying that, she kicked her legs and flew towards Yu Tanheng. Yu Tanheng looked at Dao Wu rushing over, and his mind was suddenly filled with some unbearable memories. In the previous soul battle, Dao Wu's action seemed to be about to perform the 8-section throw, but now she couldn't stop. She could only activate her soul skills. A layer of white light appeared on Yu Tanheng's body as a blue soul power shield. Zhu Guyan and others also knew how powerful Zhou was. Purple light flashed. Zhu Guyan opened her red lips slightly. Purple mist suddenly spread over the stadium. However, under Zhu Guyan's control, the purple mist did not dissipate. Instead, It began to spread on the ground of the stadium. Xiao smiled when she saw this, and then the next second Zhu Zuqing instantly appeared beside Xiao. With the help of Zhu Zuqing's body, Xiao jumped high. Seeing that there was no interference, she immediately activated the charm. Yu Tanheng was unable to dodge and was directly hit. Originally, Yu Tanheng's mental power was higher than Xiao's, but Xiao absorbed the fairy grass, and there was a heartbreaking red flower on her body that constantly blessed Xiao's practice. During this period of time, her mental power increased dramatically. Yu Tanheng was naturally hit. Chapter 278 Aerial Spiral Stranglehold. Dao Wu smiled as she watched Yu Tanheng slow down. She jumped to Yu Tanheng's side in 2 or 3 steps. Oslo wanted to support her, but Dao Wu and Yu Tanheng were stuck together. She couldn't find any chance and could only keep moving. Dao Wu didn't hesitate and jumped directly onto Yu Tanheng's shoulder. She clamped her head with her ankles and activated her waist bow. The Tandu Royal Academy, who didn't understand what was going on, was dumbfounded by Dao Wu's thunderous but insignificant operation. That's all her soul skills are. But the next moment, Dao Wu showed them what violence is. She exerted force with her ankles and, driven by her waist bow, Dao Wu's waist showed an extremely exaggerated arc. It was as if the whole person was folded 180 degrees. She threw Yu Tanheng directly into the sky. After receiving treatment, Yiling watched Yu Tanheng go up to the sky in the soul fighting arena. She was too embarrassed to watch what happened next. She could already predict what the result would be. The other people in Shrek also predicted the result at this time. He wanted to rescue Yu Tanheng, but was blocked by Tang San's vines. After Dao Wu threw Yu Tanheng into the sky, he didn't step forward immediately. Instead, he shouted to the back, "Zhu King, it's your turn." Yanqi watched Dao Wu's operation. Inexplicably, he thought of a certain game in the past. After playing the floating, the opponent can basically free his hands. Zhu Zuking's eyes flashed. The figure suddenly appeared below Yu Tanheng. Looking at Dai Mobihu flew into the sky and had no power to fight back. The soul ring on his body lit up. Purple filled his whole body. The speed was so fast that a residual shadow clone appeared. The residual shadow clone had attack power in a short period of time. It was not a phantom created by speed alone. This was the result of Yun Feng's training during this period. Self-created soul skills. In the eyes of everyone, many figures of Zhu Zuqing appeared, all below Yu Tanheng. I saw his hands clasped together above his head, and the claws on his 10 fingers quickly merged together to form a sharp blade about 1 foot long. After injecting soul power, the black light blade condensed in a straight line and chopped down at Yu Tanheng, with great destructive power. Close-range single attack skill. A flash of purple light. This is the 3rd soul ring. Before Yu Tanheng fell, he was chopped into the sky again by Zhu Zuking's soul skill blade. His back was full of terrible wounds. You should know that Zhu Zuqing also took the fairy grass. His physical strength has been greatly enhanced. But this is not over yet. The yellow soul ring also flashed after the purple meaning ended. The netherworld piercing claws suddenly stretched out, and the speed instantly doubled, and quickly stabbed the opponent with the claws. Close-range single attack skill. Facing Yu Tanheng's body that fell again, it stabbed upward fiercely. Yiling saw that it was not good. The soul ring flashed, the green light emerged, and rushed towards Yu Tanheng at a rapid speed. But Zhu Zuking's claws were already prepared. Puff. Yu Tanheng's body was like a rag doll. He was pierced through. The green light came and healed Yu Tanheng's body quickly. Yu Tanheng came back to his senses at this time. He let out a painful cry. But it was not over yet. Dao Wu approached again with a brisk pace. With her extremely strong body flexibility, she did a 360-degree back kick. She kicked Yu Tanheng away from Zhu Zuking's hands. Zhu Zuqing looked at Dao Wu gratefully. The 2nd soul ring on her body shone. The netherworld 100 claws. With the rapid rotation of the body and the sharp penetrating attack power of the cat claws, it attacked the enemy at the same position hundreds of times in a very short time. With extremely fast speed and strong destructive power. Close-range single-target attack skills. After launching the netherworld 100 claws, the attacks launched by Zhu Zuqing all have a piercing effect. As long as a wound is left on the opponent, even if the wound is not deep, the soul power will penetrate into it and madly destroy the opponent's meridians. crazy grabbing. Even with Yi Lengling's martial soul healing ability, it couldn't keep up with Zhu Zuking's destructive ability. Yu Tanhan was covered in blood at this time. He had never come down from the sky. After Zhu Zuking's soul skills were finished with both hands, Yu Tanhan's falling trend became a little slower. After doing all this, Zhu Zuking immediately withdrew and disappeared into the shadows. Dao Wu also looked at Yu Tanhan with ill intentions at this time and licked the corner of her mouth. It's my turn next. Jumping into the sky, hooking Yu Tanhan's armor neck, the waist bow started again. Spiral strangulation in the air, driven by the soul power and inertia of the waist bow. Dao Wu's slender waist was like Catkins, directly carrying this girl of more than 1.8 meters in the air, directly rotating 1180 degrees, and falling hard in the way that Yu Tanhan landed on his head. Bang! A huge sound shocked everyone in the entire arena, especially the audience and the audience. Looking at Dao Wu like a female warrior, recalling what he just said, he suddenly blushed, but the next moment he thought of something, and shouted madly at Yu Tanhan lying on the ground, "Get up, you are from Tandu Royal Academy, my wife Ben, goddamn it, there can't be any fewer people." Obviously, seeing the decline of Tandu Royal Academy, the audience who bet on it began to wail. It was as if it was not Yu Tanhan who fell to the ground, but their reborn parents. It was even more painful than killing them. Huang Yuan and others looked at Dao Wu and Zhu Zuking, who were so perverted. They killed the main force of the opponent in a few minutes. They looked at each other. It seems that they didn't make a move. Seeing this, Zhu Guyan also began to control the purple mist to spread rapidly. Tang San looked at the dead blue-silver grass on the ground. His steps kept retreating. He didn't dare to get close at all. What? Tang San is playing with poison? It was because Tang San was a poison expert that he knew how terrible Zhu Guyan's poison was now. There was a sizzling sound on the ground. It was not like he could not hear it. The fighting arena was corroded. Tang San was indeed the protagonist of the original novel. In such a situation, he could still maintain his sanity. When he saw that the opponent was seriously injured and lacked combat power, he wanted to break through. He looked directly at Jingling next to him. Jingling's mouth twitched slightly, but he still stepped forward, staring at the rapid advancement of the purple mist, dispersing it as he advanced. Under Jingling's path, a path was soon opened up. Seeing this, Tang San still rushed over, although it was inevitable that some of it was stuck. But just these few seconds of time difference. Tang San's back was corroded with small holes. The flesh disappeared. The purple mist blocked the back members of the Blue Tyrant Academy. However, Tang San also took out his Raoger wine at this time and threw it directly into the air, then swung the sleeve arrow, and the gunpowder tied to the sleeve arrow instantly burned in the air. The Raoger wine exploded instantly. Then the wine and water flames exploded in the air, burning up the purple mist. Chapter 279. Is your daughter so fierce? Zhu Guyan was dumbfounded. She had never thought that there was such a move. She subconsciously looked at Yun Feng on the stage, and instantly felt that it must have been Yun Feng who did it. The competition on the stage was extremely fierce, and Yun Feng was watching this scene from above. The corners of his mouth were cracked. Yurlong said to Meow Meow, "See, this is what I taught her." Dao Wu controls the output. Zhu Zuking bursts and kills, and Ning Rong adds status. Tang San can also control the field. As long as he quickly solves one, he can fight with more people against fewer, and once he goes up, he can't get down. Yurlong's mouth twitched. His eyelids were twitching wildly, looking at Yun Feng's jubilant look. I don't know what they usually do. In the entire martial arts world, this kind of operation is extremely explosive. It should be said that no one would have thought of this move. Strong attack type Soul Master? Dao Wu is not. It should be said that she is a sensitive type Soul Master. But what did she do? She was playing control. Zhu Zuking is a sensitive type Soul Master. But it was not the harassment that everyone had in mind. It was actually violent output. Ning Rong was the only one who was normal in this group. But Dao Wu instigated them to kick a few times, whose support came forward. This simply overturned the worldview of everyone present. Emperor Zuyi looked at Ning Fengzi next to him. After thinking for a while, He still asked Ning Fengzi weakly, "Is your daughter so fierce?" Ning Fengzi's face was full of black lines, although he knew that Ning Rongarong was fine. But why did he teach Ning Rongarong these things? Support soul masters always have to hide behind their teammates. And what the hell are Zhuzuqin and Zhaowu? Ning Fengzi also saw them in actual combat for the first time. Naturally, he was shocked, but after seeing Zuyi and Sarah's who were the same as him, he felt inexplicably relieved. On the surface, he was still smiling. Alas, I have no choice. Who told me that my daughter is lucky enough to have teammates kicked by auxiliary spirit masters? It's hard to find. Meng Shenji finally couldn't stand it anymore. After a brief talk with Qin Ming, he shouted below, "Tandu Royal Academy admits defeat. We admit defeat. Stop fighting." Dao Wu and others stopped their actions after hearing this. At this time, Oslo also fell from the air and blinked at Yu Tan. He immediately knew why. Yu Tan was also afraid. It really hurts to be hit. The whole person turned into a bloody man. He was afraid of it. What should he do if he doesn't pretend to be dead? He is not stupid. What if Wu and the others really get too excited and forget the rules of the game? Wouldn't he be dead? So Yu Tan decisively pretended to be dead under Yi Lengeling's treatment, and he is much better than Oslo. At least his body is still relatively strong. To be honest, Yu Tan and his team are not bad, but they encountered Yun Feng who was cheating, and he also cheated his little wives. That's why this happened. At this time, the entire Dun arena was silent. More than 80,000 spectators, as if they had seen something incredible. They all fell into dementia. The Playboy team that they had ridiculed, now those girls can be the Tandu Royal Academy, and anyone with a discerning eye can see it. It was said to be a 7-person battle, but in fact, the lineup was split and then completely abused by the opponent. There was no suspense. This was indeed a game without suspense, or a one-sided massacre. But the target to be destroyed was not the Blue Tyrant Academy as they thought, but the Tandu Royal Academy team that was placed with high hopes and symbolized the royal family of the Tandu Empire. Dao Wu's eyes swept coldly towards the audience at this time, as if telling the audience with her eyes who was the strong one. They were not vases. They used their tyrannical strength to block all the insults, contempt, and disdain against them, and these expressions had long disappeared. The only thing left was shock and disbelief. But at this time, there were also spectators who were angry about losing and yelled at the referee, "Referee, I want to complain. They are not competing at all, but killing people. They violated the rules of the game. I want them to be sentenced to lose." The referee had completely woken up at this time, and his stern eyes immediately looked at the players of Lanba Academy. Ning Rongarong also stood up at this time and said with a smile, "Huh? Why do you say we killed people? They are not dead." The referee was stunned for a moment, and turned his head to look at the 7 people who fell to the ground from Tandu Royal Academy. Indeed, although these 7 people were seriously injured, they were still breathing and should not die. Among them, only Yi Lengeling was slightly better. After all, she was Ning Rongarong's friend. In addition to the characteristics of the martial spirit, it was not a big deal. Under the control of the crowd, many attacks deliberately avoided Yi Lengeling. And after Ning Rongarong's words came out at this time, how could Ning Fengzi let his daughter be treated like this? After looking at Emperor Zhu Yi, he smiled and said, "The audience now doesn't understand." Seeing this, Emperor Zhu Yi naturally knew what it meant. Moreover, neither the Spirit Hall nor the Heavenly Empire said that Blue Tyrant Academy had committed a foul. So why were their people so excited? They immediately stood up and shouted with their soul power, "In this battle, Blue Tyrant Academy wins." As soon as these words came out, the guards who were still hesitating just now also received instructions. They dragged the crying audience away. The host was also an understanding person. Seeing that his emperor had spoken, he naturally quickly echoed, "In the first round of the first game of the preliminaries, Blue Tyrant Academy won." Boom! A huge discussion broke out in the audience seats. For a while, there were doubts, praises, and more were horror. The dignified Heavenly Royal Academy was actually defeated by an unknown team of soul masters in just a few minutes. The shock it brought to people was too great. Emperor Zhu Yi stood up with a sullen face. His eyes fell on Prince Zhu Xing, who looked dazed, and snorted coldly, and left with a wave of his sleeves. Ning Xuan followed Emperor Zuyi out of the VIP seat with a smile on his face, obviously very happy. The Platinum Bishop Salaz sat in his original position thoughtfully, as if thinking about something. Yun Feng on the viewing platform also stood up with a smile. He said to Liu Erlong next to him, "Since the fight is over, let's go out." Everyone naturally had no objection, they were just staying there. Besides, there was no match for them on the field. Yun Feng, out of humanitarian concern, naturally had to go and see Yu Tan and others, otherwise, it would not be in line with his personality. But when Yun Feng and others just walked out of the door, some merchants in Tandu City couldn't wait to find Liu Erlong. They stopped Yun Feng and others. "Dean Liu Erlong, does your Lanba Academy accept sponsorship?" Chapter 280 Blue Silver Emperor Evolution. You misunderstood. It's the advertisement on the battle uniform. No interference. No interference. After Liu Erlong selected a few merchants, he also looked at Yun Feng. Yun Feng nodded naturally. Although he had money, it was free, why not take it for nothing? And he didn't have to pay anything. Yun Feng took this aspect very lightly and thoroughly, but he didn't accept too many merchants. He only accepted a few that paid the most. After resolving this little episode, Yun Feng and others also successfully reunited with Wu and others. Seeing their happy faces, Yun Feng's calm face revealed a hint of smile. "Beautiful fight. When did you practice cooperation behind my back?" Wu looked at Yun Feng's arrival, and also jumped a little, throwing herself on Yun Feng's body. Then she answered Yun Feng's question in a delicate voice. "Of course, we slept together for so long, you can even sleep together." Yun Feng froze when he heard the answer. The words were rough, but the truth was not rough, it seemed to be the truth. The bond between the girls has long been deep. Miao Miao didn't understand this. She was a little worried. Seeing Miao Miao's expression, Liu Erlong slowly said, "Miao Miao, are you feeling uncomfortable?" This also attracted the attention of Yun and others. "There is no way. Miao Miao's personality is too special. You have to pay attention at all times." Miao Miao saw that everyone was looking at her. Her hands clenched the hem of her maid's skirt unnaturally, staring at a pair of cute cat eyes. Her cat ears trembled a few times. That, master, won't you expose your strength?" Hearing this, Yun also smiled and touched Miao Miao's head, and rubbed her ears hard a few times. Her hair was messed up. In the face of absolute strength, no matter how good the tactics are, they may not be useful. If it doesn't work, we will all appear on the stage and let them see clearly. Seeing that Miao Miao still didn't understand it very well, Zhu Guyan, who was also a maid, felt obligated to teach this junior. Pulling her aside, he slowly introduced Yun Feng's glorious achievements. Miao Miao's big eyes looked at Yun Feng with a trace of admiration from time to time. Ning Rong saw all this and said to Yun Feng jokingly, "When will you take Miao Miao on too?" Look at her eyes. Several people on the side also echoed. Only Liu Erlong's expression was a little abnormal. An inexplicable emotion in her heart was slowly transmitted, developed, and majestic. Yun Feng and others didn't notice it, but Liu Erlong's heart was in turmoil. "I'm not in love with this playboy." Yun Feng's figure kept appearing in her mind. Combined with Yun Feng standing in front of her, the throbbing in her heart became more and more real. Liu Erlong, who didn't dare to think too much, hurriedly shook his head, eager to get rid of this emotion in his heart. Because Bai Ji was next to him, she saw this scene. She also said calmly, "Dean Erlong, what are you doing?" Liu Erlong heard someone talking about herself. After forcing a smile, "I'm fine. I was just too happy and thought I was dreaming." Let's go back to the academy first. I don't want to be watched by people when I go out later," Liu Erlong said as she was about to leave. But Yun Feng stopped her. "Dean Erlong, I have something else to do. You go back first." In fact, Liu Erlong also wanted to apologize to the Tandu Royal Academy across the street. After all, Dao Wu and others are now fighting on behalf of Lanba Academy. That's why they injured Flanders students again. But what she thought of just now, she really didn't want to stay with Yun Feng. She was afraid that if she stayed for too long, she would get stuck. After nodding, Liu Erlong didn't force it. She just said to everyone, No one wants to go with me. Douluo and others naturally wanted to be with Feng, but Feng shook his head. Douluo, don't go this time, I'll be back in a while. What if Tang and the others are scared to death when they see you? Feng said this. Douluo and the others immediately thought of something bad. They all shook their heads. Feng smiled when he saw this. Please, Long, take them back with you. I'll be back soon. Long didn't say much, just nodded. Then he led a group of people back. Feng asked for directions casually at the original place. At an angle where no one could see, he suddenly showed a mocking smile. Tang-san, wait a little longer, it will be done soon. After saying this, Feng directly found a secluded place. Yin, there is no one around here, right? Yin also shook his head directly in response to Feng's question. No. After hearing this answer, Feng also smiled. He started to collect his reward directly, listening to advice to become stronger. He has achieved his goal just now by watching the fighting spirit competition. The rewarded martial spirit evolution has arrived. It's time to start evolving. Blue Silver Emperor, he is looking forward to it. An extremely huge breath suddenly rose up, and the whole forest continued to emerge with blue-silver grass. The blue light quietly emerged from each blue-silver grass. The blue light from a blue-silver grass might be just a tiny blue light spot. But when the blue light from billions of blue-silver grasses gathered together, it was a blue ocean. Feng immediately felt that he had become the center of this ocean. His body was like a huge swallowing mouth, madly swallowing the blue ocean rushing in from the outside world. An unprecedented heat flow rose from the deepest part of his body. At this moment, Feng neither felt the impact and pressure brought by the huge energy, nor felt the expansion in his body. He was surprised to find that when the heat flow in his body was courageous, an extremely gentle breath gently brushed through his body. This was Yun's breath. Yes, Yun began to assist with all his strength after sensing Feng's changes. The blue-silver grass began to change at this moment. At this time, Feng's skin surface had completely turned into a crystal blue, and countless blue-silver grass emerged from his body and coiled. Those blue-silver grasses were also surprisingly crystal clear. The originally crystal blue-silver grass became more transparent, and gradually, it turned into a sapphire-like bright and transparent. In the center of the crystal blue, there was a golden texture. It spread from the root of each blue-silver grass to the tip of the leaf. The real blue-silver emperor finally awakened. In an instant, under the influence of the blue-gold light spreading from Feng's body, the blue light in the air became obviously larger. On the ground, each blue-silver grass began to become crystal clear and began to grow wildly. Feng's bulging muscles shrank a little, and the whole person looked more coordinated. His figure did not change, but his black hair gradually turned dark blue. In that dark blue, there was also a faint golden glow, just like the blue-silver grass beside him. Chapter 281 Xuking, Kainer and Xu. The crystal-like long hair was so dazzling. Feng's whole body attributes were invisibly improved at this moment. It had nothing to do with soul power. It was completely the reshaping of his own body after the awakening of his martial soul. The characteristics of the blue-silver grass were perseverance and tenacious vitality. As the blue-silver emperor, Feng undoubtedly showed this perfectly at this time. At this time, the vigorous vitality in his body had reached an extremely terrifying level. Even Feng himself didn't know that at this moment, his body had an extremely terrifying, unimaginable special attribute. It was also the exclusive attribute of the Blue-Silver Emperor. Back to Lanba Academy. But just after returning to the academy, he was called by Liu Rulong. Feng didn't care, and thought that Liu Rulong had something else to discuss with him. After arriving at the reception desk of the academy, Feng's face was full of confusion. Liu Rulong usually doesn't come to discuss things with him here. Full of doubts. But Feng still went in. Except for Liu Rulong, there was only one person in the room. He stood up from his seat when he heard the two people coming. He looked about 27 or 28 years old. Although he was not as handsome as Feng, he had a straight nose and a square mouth. He was wearing a clean green cloth robe, which gave people a very refreshing feeling. His long black hair was tied with a green cloth belt and hung neatly behind his head. Although his clothes were very ordinary, he had a special temperament. When Yun Feng saw this person, he couldn't help but feel a little familiar. But he was sure that he had seen this person for the first time. When Liu Erlong saw Yun Feng coming in, he also smiled and said, "Yun Feng, let me introduce you. This is the Crown Prince Zhu King of the Tandu Empire." Then he said to the young man, "This is the Yun Feng you are looking for. He is a genius of our Lanba Academy." Yun Feng was shocked and immediately understood why he felt familiar with the young man in front of him. Isn't it true that his appearance is somewhat similar to Emperor Zhuyi and Prince Zhu crossing? And Yun Feng was not shocked by this. It was Zhu King's true identity, the continent's #1 genius, the angel god, Qian Renxu. Although he was shocked, Yun Feng did not show it. He just greeted respectfully, but he was neither humble nor overbearing. "So it's His Royal Highness the Crown Prince." Yun Feng is honored. And Zhu King was slightly distracted when he saw the handsome man in front of him, but he quickly reacted. He said in admiration, "If Uncle Ning and Father hadn't told me, I really couldn't believe that you were only 14 years old." Thinking back then, when I was 14, I was just an ignorant boy. "Nice to meet you. If you don't mind, just call me Brother Zhu." It's better not to mention the word Crown Prince. Yun Feng didn't know why he wanted to laugh when he heard Qian Renxu's words. But Yun Feng's disguise over the years was still very good. In addition, he now belongs to Bibi Dong's camp. Naturally, he didn't know what Qian Renxu wanted to talk to him about. Naturally, he had to be a little careful. Liu Erlong saw Yun Feng and Zhu King chatting. She also found an excuse and left tactfully. She was not good at these. Besides, it was not for her. There was no point in staying. Qian Renxu knew Liu Erlong's personality. She had investigated in secret. Naturally, she had no objection. After the two sat down, Zhu King personally brought a pot of hot tea for Yun Feng. Then he slowly returned to his seat. Yun Feng smelled the fragrant tea in front of him. He didn't need to drink it, just smelling it, he already had a refreshing feeling. In addition, the antique decoration in this room easily made people feel comfortable physically and mentally. In addition, Yun Feng knew his identity. He actually had a different feeling. After taking a sip, he also praised, "Good tea, the fragrance lingers on my lips and teeth." After Yun Feng put down the tea, he also slowly said, "Brother Zhu, may I ask what you want to talk to me about?" After Zhu King was stunned for a moment, he laughed heartily. "Why, can't you get to know Brother Yun for nothing?" Seeing Zhu King's performance, Yun Feng also followed the words and said, "How could it be? It is my honor to be appreciated by the Crown Prince of the Tandu Empire." Zhu King didn't know why, but he felt a little awkward when listening to Yun Feng's words. Why did he emphasize the word Tandu a little bit? Thinking carefully, the woman from the spirit hall should not tell others her identity. It is impossible that he saw through her disguise. Maybe I am too sensitive. Zhu King smiled awkwardly. The atmosphere became inexplicably weird, until the door of the room was knocked. "King, Xiaki, are you there?" The familiar middle-aged male voice sounded. The two knew who it was immediately. After Yun Feng looked at Zhu King, he stood up and opened the door of the room. "Father-in-law, you are here?" Hearing this, Zhu King was stunned for a moment. You know, Ning Fengzi didn't express his opinion openly. Although he knew that Ning Rong and Yun Feng were in love, he had some fantasies. Now he knew that Yun Feng had other backers behind him. Zhu King's mouth showed a slight arc. "I just don't know what the person in the spirit hall thinks. Aren't they afraid that Yun Feng will transcend their control?" "Hello, teacher." Ning Fengzi looked at the two people who greeted him and smiled. "I wanted to introduce you two to each other. I didn't expect you to be one step ahead of me," Zhu King said with a smile. After knowing Brother Yun Feng's record, the disciple couldn't sleep day and night, so he came to find him immediately in his free time. "I'm sorry to trouble you, Master." Yun Feng looked at Qian Renxu like this and nodded. There is a reason why he can lurk for so long. It's a pity that he wasted his talent on such a small matter. According to Yun Feng's thinking, if Qian Renxu practiced step by step, she would have controlled the world in her own hands a few years earlier. It's putting the cart before the horse. Of course, Yun Feng also looked at this matter from a god's perspective. There is no reference opinion. After talking happily for a long time, Yun Feng also stood up and said goodbye. "It's enough to meet Qian Renxu today. Yun Feng still remained rational about this Duo's first beauty. After all, she now looks like a man. No idea. Yun Feng walked out of the room and looked at the token in his hand. He smiled. It was a gold medal. The gold medal was simple in style, but it contained a special energy flow, and a word Tian was engraved on it. After Yun Feng left for a while, watching Yun Feng's back gradually moving away, Zhu King exclaimed, "Teacher, you are right. He really doesn't look like a teenager. Not only can he hide his thoughts, but his words and deeds are also very steady. He is worthy of your support. Rong will have someone to rely on in the future." Ning Fengzi's eyes moved slightly. He smiled and said, "It depends on their own luck. Yun Feng has too many secrets. The Seven Treasures Glazed Tile sect needs to investigate more." Chapter 282. How terrifying would that be? After getting this answer, Zhu King's eyes showed a trace of relaxation. As long as they don't stand together completely, it's fine. Ning Fengzi smiled slightly and said, "This child's excellence is not given by our Seven Treasures Glazed Tile sect, but entirely depends on his own ability. I can't even see his future clearly. Not only has he reached level 50 or above at such a young age, but the strength he has shown is even better than Sol Buo. You should know that the martial spirit of the Power Clan is not a weak martial spirit." Zhu King's eyes moved slightly, and she had already calculated it in her heart. No matter what it is for, Yun Feng's growth rate is too fast. He must be pulled to her side. She doesn't want that woman to have such an easy time. Zhu King nodded in agreement. "Yes, Yun Feng is too evil. Fortunately he is on our side." Ning Fengzi glanced at Zhu King, and then said seriously, "King, there is one thing I must remind you. From my contact with this child during this period of time, if you really want to get his help in the future, then, never try to recruit him, but be a real friend with him." Zhu King was stunned for a moment, and looked at Ning Fengzi. After a while, she slowly nodded. "Teacher, I understand. Thank you for your guidance." Yun Feng returned to the academy and watched everyone chatting in the yard. The table was still full of food. His stomach was also growling. The girls who heard the strange sound also stood up one after another, came to Yun Feng's side. "Are you hungry?" Yun Feng touched his head and nodded. "Yes. A little." "Then let's eat." After a simple meal, Yurlong also told Zhao Wu and the others about today's game. He did not blame Zhao Wu and the others. He just explained it. "Don't be so heavy-handed next time. If you accidentally kill the opponent, you will lose the qualification for the competition. It's not worth it." Zhao Wu and the others nodded seriously. "It seems that they have gone too far today. But I don't know why I can't stop when I see Yu Tan and the others like that. It may be because of Yun Feng's influence. That's why he is like this when he sees Yu Tan and the others." "I understand, Dean Erlong." Yurlong saw that these people understood so well, and nodded with satisfaction. She didn't want to ruin the reputation of Zhao Wu and the others because of such a small matter. Of course, there was selfishness. After all, if Yun Feng and the others won the championship, it would be a great benefit to Lanba Academy. After Yurlong finished speaking, Yun Feng also called Ning Rong out alone. After walking about a few hundred meters, Yun Feng stopped in a relatively open place. Ning Rong looked at Yun Feng and stopped and asked playfully, "Brother, why do you want to take me out alone?" Then she hugged Yun Feng's arm. Yun Feng smiled. Rong, if I remember correctly, your Kabbalah sect should have a skill called distraction control. What level have you cultivated now?" Ning Rong nodded heavily. "Yes, didn't I teach you last time?" Yun Feng smiled awkwardly. In fact, when Yun Feng gave Ning Rong the skills, Ning Rong also told Yun Feng and others about it. But some daily tasks were too full. Yun Feng did not practice this skill. Seeing Yun Feng like this, Ning Rong thought he had forgotten it, and immediately said, "Brother, you didn't forget it?" Yun Feng shook his head. Although the effect of issuing tasks to himself has become very small now, Yun Feng did not give up. After all, this is a method of steady improvement, and it will not get stuck. The reason why Ning Rong was called out was that he saw that Ning Rong's mastery of martial arts was not enough. "I didn't forget, Rong, how far have you practiced?" Looking at Yun Feng's expression, Ning Rong knew that Yun Feng would not lie to her, and immediately said, "It's okay, I have just practiced to the 3-aperture control heart, and I can barely use it. Yun Feng frowned slightly. Seeing Yun Feng like this, Ning Rong also explained, there are too many things to practice, so I have never taken care of them. Yun Feng looked at Ning Rong seriously at this time and said, Rong, I know that I gave you too many things, so you can't practice them. In fact, I didn't practice distraction control much. But you are different. You are an auxiliary spirit master, so you still have to pay attention to this. Although it was easy to defeat Dandu Royal Academy today, they definitely cannot represent the general strength of advanced spirit master academies, especially now that Zhao and Zhu King's strengths have been exposed. The opponents you will face in the future will only become stronger and stronger, and your martial soul, which has evolved to the level of 9 treasures glazed tower, has a unique advantage. Of course, the opponent I'm talking about is not just the ones from the academy competition. Ning Rong said with a smile, brother, what's wrong with you? Yun Feng looked at Ning Rong like this, and said helplessly, be serious, Rong. Ning Rong heard this and realized that Yun Feng was not joking. She immediately put on a serious face. She looked extremely serious. But it didn't last long. Yun Feng and Ning Rong both smiled. Yun Feng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You don't have to be so serious, just be casual, but you have to listen carefully. Ning Rong nodded in agreement. Rong, didn't you find that your soul skill control is not very good? Every time I added it one by one, or I only added one soul skill in each game, and then watched from the side. Ning Rong put her finger on her lips. After thinking for a while, it seemed to be like this. Then what should I do? Seeing that Ning Rong finally understood, Yun Feng also touched Ning Rong's head. Put aside your daily practice for a while, and spend more time practicing the distraction control in the sect. I know Rong is almost level 40, and your auxiliary ability is already quite outstanding. At the same time, it can increase our 4 abilities by 50%. The instantaneous explosive power can almost make us rise to a higher level. But, if we work together, how long can your 4 abilities increase us? Especially me. Ning Rong also realized the problem at this time, nodded seriously to Yun Feng. I know, brother. Thank you. What are we saying thank you to each other? Feeling the soft jade in his arms. After a while, Ning Rong suddenly asked Yun Feng, brother, how are you practicing now? Yun Feng looked down at Ning Rong's little face in confusion. What's going on? It's just distraction control. Facing this question, Yun Feng smiled awkwardly. 3 orifices. Ning Rong widened her eyes. She looked at Yun Feng in disbelief. Well, you are 1 level lower than me! Yun Feng was helpless and explained weakly, I just don't have time. The situation reversed. Ning Rong pushed Yun Feng away, put her hands on her waist and said, don't think that you don't need to practice just because you are a battle spirit master. Brother, if you can control every strand of your blue-silver grass with ease, how terrifying would that be? Chapter 283 Ning Rong's shock. Yun Feng also knew, but now he could only nod and agree to Ning Rong to practice with her. Ning Rong, who got the answer, was also happy to hug Yun Feng again. Brother, do you know the secret of our 7 treasures glazed tile sect? What? Yun Feng was puzzled. Why has our 7 treasures glazed tile sect always maintained the title of the first auxiliary martial spirit on the continent? Yun Feng had some memories, but not much. Facing Ning Rong's expression, he couldn't explain it. I don't know. Ning Rong raised her delicate chin and said proudly, the reason why the 7 treasures glazed tile sect has always maintained the title of the first auxiliary martial spirit is certainly related to the martial spirit itself, but more importantly, this distraction control. The improvement of soul power is certainly important, but this distraction control is even more important to our 7 treasures glazed tile sect. My father, Sect Master Ning, has reached the level of the 7 apertures exquisite heart in this distraction control ability. I also know the importance of this thing, but brother, the skills you gave are really fun. Yun Feng was confused. So you blame me? But I definitely won't say it. I can only change the subject. Wrong. If you add soul skills to all 7 people now, How long can you last? Ning-rong-a-rong glanced at young Feng. The secret of our 7 treasures glazed tower martial spirit lies in the consumption of soul power. The higher the soul power level and the more soul rings, the more obvious this drawback is. In my current situation, if I use 50% of all 3 items of assistance on the 6 of you at the same time, I can only last for 3 seconds at most. If it's just you, it should be longer. Yun Feng thought about it carefully, and it was true. After all, I am the Soul King. The blessing is still there. After explaining everything, Ning-rong-a-rong and Yun Feng returned to the crowd again. Since Lan Ba Academy had already participated in the preliminaries, they did not go to the Tandy Great Soul Fighting Arena the next day. Instead, they stayed in the academy to practice. Yun Feng, who got up early in the morning, held his waist and confirmed the practice method of distraction control with Ning-rong-a-rong. However, it was really difficult for Yun Feng to practice, controlling all the blue-silver emperors at the same time and smashing them in different directions. It was really torturous. After seeing this, Ning-rong-a-rong also smiled and said, "So there are things that I don't know." Yun Feng blushed and said, "I can't even have a baby, so what's the big deal?" As soon as Yun Feng said this, the girls too one after another. Ning-rong-a-rong didn't continue to laugh at Yun Feng. She just slowly said her own experience. "Brother, you are practicing incorrectly. It is really difficult to practice this distraction control. Without perseverance and determination, it is difficult to achieve anything, especially in the beginning stage. You have to calm down. Once you get the hang of it, the subsequent practice will become easier." The meaning of the 3 orifice control heart is to control it with the 3 orifices in the heart. Don't be too eager to control. First of all, you have to sense everything around you, and use your heart to grasp the changes in the surrounding environment. Any living thing must live in the same environment. Use your heart to experience it. Whether it is the air, smell, color, sound, or feeling, it will tell you a lot of things. When you can fully understand what these changes represent, then it will be much easier for you to control it. Make the use of each soul skill a conditioned reflex. In this way, although your mind may not be able to be divided into 3 parts, the effects produced are almost the same. Let you achieve the same effect first, and then slowly experience the feeling of having a heart divided into 3 orifices, which will be easier. After hearing Ning-rong-a-rong's words, Yun Feng also forced himself to calm down. Muttered, "Feel everything around you carefully." Hearing Ning-rong-a-rong's words, Yun Feng seemed to have found a sense. After closing his eyes, Ning-rong-a-rong and other women did not say anything. They just quietly did their own things. Soon, Yun Feng entered the state that he had only when he was practicing. He inhaled slowly and exhaled lightly. Everything around him seemed to become empty. The air with the fragrance of plants flowed in from the nose. The skin felt the temperature around, and the sound of insects and birds came in through the ears. Yun Feng stood there quietly, trying to feel the sense he had grasped before. Gradually, Yun Feng was a little disappointed. That sense seemed to be getting farther and farther away from him. He could feel some changes in the outside world, but these changes passed too quickly, let alone grasping them. Even his 6 senses could not accurately tell him what was happening in the outside world. But Yun Feng's mind turned very quickly. In this case, don't blame him for cheating. Yun Feng released his huge mental power and forcibly grasped that feeling. The martial soul was summoned. The blue-silver emperor kept connecting with everything around him. It strengthened Yun Feng's understanding of perception. Yun Feng's body shook, and the lost trace seemed to come back. He raised his right hand, and the blue-gold light surged in his palm. With his body as the center, branches of blue-silver emperor floated around him. It was as if each branch had an independent consciousness. And through the perception of the blue-silver emperor, Yun Feng actually had multiple perspectives. That was the perspective of the blue-silver emperor. What can you find if you feel it with your heart? The blue-silver emperor seemed to be telling Yun Feng. Although they could not become Yun Feng's eyes, they could make him feel everything in the outside world better. 3 of the blue-silver emperors arranged around moved. One gently inserted into a small tree, shaking off the dewdrops left at night, and one fell on the ground and swayed gently, clearing the surrounding bushes. The last one took a blooming flower and slowly flew to Yun Feng's side. handed the flower over. The three blue-silver emperors were doing three different things, but slowly, everyone around Yun Feng began to act. Ning Rong-Arong's eyes opened extremely wide. She carefully counted the sharp swords in the sky. She said tremblingly, 10, 10, 9. Yun Feng's changes were not over yet. The number of blue-silver emperors under control was increasing. Ning Rong-Arong's mouth opened as if it could fit a goose egg. She was completely shocked by Yun Feng's operation. Yun Feng's consciousness continued to immerse. With the blessing of mental power, Yun Feng found that his vision was slowly expanding. Even if he closed his eyes tightly, the blue-silver emperors that continued to spread brought Yun Feng a great vision. If it was just a dozen blue-silver emperors, Yun Feng would not feel shocked, but every blue-silver emperor controlled by Yun Feng could bring this effect. Naturally, Yun Feng discovered many interesting things. Controlling grass with the spirit, the blue-silver emperor seemed to have its own spirituality. As Yun Feng's mind moved, the blue-silver emperor began to differentiate continuously, but in a moment, countless blue-gold torrents appeared behind Yun Feng, all swirling around him. Zhuzuqing had just arrived here and saw this scene. She also walked in front of Ning Rong-Arong and asked curiously, Rong-Arong, what is he doing? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284, Top-Level Mimicry Environment. Ning Rong-Arong came back to her senses when she heard Zhuzuqing's voice. She retracted her chin and rubbed it gently. It was a little sore. She shook her head, her eyes full of disbelief. I don't know either. The highest level of our 7 treasures glazed tile sect is the 7 apertures, which is to control 7 items or soul power at the same time. But in the current situation, how can he control 7? Hearing Ning Rong-Arong's answer, the girls were also surprised. After a careful feeling, this must be tens of thousands. For the first time, Ning Rong-Arong felt that her sex distraction control was so awesome, it could actually reach this level. The blue-silver emperor was in joy. It was as if Yun Feng had found the correct way to use it. The main body kept rotating around Yun Feng. From time to time, it touched Yun Feng's right hand with vines, as if it wanted him to touch himself. Yun Feng felt the movement of the martial soul. His fingers moved slightly, and he opened his eyes and looked at the sky-covering torrent. With a thought, he looked up at the sky. Tens of thousands of blue-silver emperors shot towards the sky. But this time, it was a completely different feeling from the past. These tens of thousands of blue-silver emperors were under his control. It was no longer like before, where he could only grasp a general direction. Looking at the continuous sound of breaking through the air, he also showed a smile. Looking at the pierced clouds, which could not heal for a long time, Yun Feng also retracted his martial spirit. However, Yun Feng's casual move caused a great shock to the people of the entire Tandu city. Only a rubbing sound was heard. Then, in the south of Tandu city, a blue-gold light column suddenly appeared and broke through the sky. The momentum seemed to pierce the sky above the Tandu Empire. Zhuzuqing circled around Yun Feng, and kept smacking his lips. Yun Feng was also a little confused when he saw Zhuzuqing like this. Zuqing, what's wrong with you? Zhuzuqing retracted her gaze and looked at Yun Feng and murmured, you are really a monster. As a Soul King, you can actually use such a terrifying move. How many secrets do you have in Yun Feng? Yun Feng narrowed his eyes slightly, and listened to Zhuzuqing's words, and he was also quite happy in his heart. His strength has improved again. Everyone is happy for Yun Feng. Even Liu Ralong, who came over, sent his congratulations. Only Zhuzuqing was extremely conflicted. Seeing Yun Feng becoming more and more dazzling, the sense of urgency in his heart also deepened. It's not that she is unhappy, but she is afraid that she will not be able to help Yun Feng in the future. After all, Yun Feng has made too much progress. Although the level is about to catch up, but the gap in combat power is getting bigger and bigger. Ning Rong-Arong, under the gaze of everyone, also stepped forward and hugged Yun Feng's arm. He said seriously, brother, what realm have you reached in your cultivation? Didn't you just not know how to do it? How come you are about to control tens of thousands of swords all of a sudden? Yun Feng looked around at everyone, then he used his mental power to sense that there was no one around, and smiled and said, strictly speaking, what I practiced should not be considered distraction control. The girls had also practiced this skill. Ning Rong told Zhao Wu and others about this, so when everyone heard Yun Feng say it was not this, they were also confused. The whole yard was stunned for a few seconds. Although Liu Erlong had not practiced it, she had also heard of this secret of the 7 treasures glazed sect. But if she remembered correctly, there was also an upper limit. How could it be like Yun Feng? With a wave of his hand, all the trees rose. Suddenly, Liu Erlong thought of something. He exclaimed, self-created soul skills. Liu Erlong's words also opened everyone's minds. They all thought of this incredible thing. One by one, they looked at Yun Feng with burning eyes. Yun Feng thought about it carefully, and it seemed to be the case. So he nodded. He smiled and said, actually, I didn't think so much at the beginning, but Rong's words reminded me. Distraction control, after all, is still practiced with a person's spirit, and it's uncomfortable to force it. For example, if we always eat with our right hands, and now suddenly switch to our left hands, we will feel uncomfortable, or even awkward. But in the final analysis, it is still controlled by our own brains. I'm not used to it, so I added my mental power and integrated it into what I want to control. With the help of the martial soul, I entered a strange state. It's that simple. The corners of Liu Erlong and others' mouths twitched. Listening to Yun Feng's understated description, it seems that their hearts have been hit hard. What is the help of the martial soul? Does the martial soul have thinking? It can also help people. Why don't they know? A mouthful of old groan. It's so uncomfortable. Zhu Zuking's eyes were burning, and she said to Yun Feng, brother, according to what you said, then we should be able to do it. Yun Feng lowered his head and thought carefully, looking at Zhu Zuking's eyes. He nodded seriously. In theory, it can be done, but Zuking, your practice is not very useful. Hearing Yun Feng's answer, Zhu Zuking's eyes dimmed. Seeing this, Yun Feng thought about it and continued, but it's not impossible to practice. This is still very helpful for training your mental power. I feel that I have consumed more than usual after using it for a while, and my mental power has become more condensed. Liu Erlong looked at Yun Feng at this time and said slowly, husband, try it on me. Yun Feng nodded, not afraid of hurting Liu Erlong. You know, Liu Erlong is a top-level strong man, and he is also a top-level healing beast. Yun Feng condensed his mental power, and in the eyes of everyone, the blue-gold light condensed in his eyes. He kept accumulating strength until he reached the maximum and shot towards Liu Erlong. Liu Erlong saw the 2 blue-gold lights shooting at him. The distraction in his eyes also disappeared a little. A layer of red light covered his hands. Resist the impact of Yun Feng's mental power. His figure was shot back several meters. His heart was even more affected by the mental power. After a careful feeling, Yun Feng's mental power was indeed much more condensed than before. Looking at Liu Erlong's slightly pale face, Yun Feng also stopped the output. He hurried to Liu Erlong's side, looking at Liu Erlong worriedly. Feeling Yun Feng's gaze, Liu Erlong smiled. It's indeed better than before. Everyone can practice. There is no bad thing, whether it is to improve strength, or to encounter spirit masters with side mental power in the future. It will be easier to deal with. Liu Erlong also said slowly, not only that, you should all know from Zhaogang or Flanders that I am the illegitimate daughter of the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex family. The effect of being surrounded by thousands of trees that Yun Feng just created is the top-level mimicry environment training. That is a kind of self-origin, which can only appear in spirit masters above level 70. The external environment cannot produce such a thing. Chapter 285 Wrong, you are really my lucky star. Yun Feng also recalled the effect of the simulated environment in his mind. The so-called top-level simulated environment training is to completely integrate oneself with the surrounding environment and become a part of it when practicing in the most suitable environment for oneself. In this way, not only can the training speed be accelerated, but also one's martial soul can be made purer. The attributes are evenly enhanced. That requires extremely huge mental power. Even so, Not every soul master can do it. Only some specific martial souls can accomplish it. However, what Liu Yulong couldn't figure out was that Yun Feng was a soul king. Why could he reach this level? Yun Feng understood it immediately after hearing what Liu Yulong said. His mental power is very strong now, especially the purple extreme demon pupil has reached the 4th level. Vast. That's why this effect is caused. The greatest advantage of distraction control can be summarized in 2 words. That is, different controls at the same time can make the skills have no gaps when they are used. Excellent distraction control can accurately grasp every characteristic of the soul skills controlled by oneself and the changes in the object of action. This is what the 7 Treasures Glazed sect pursues as the first auxiliary martial soul. At this time, Yun Feng did not achieve distraction control, but another more terrifying ability, environmental control. Relying on his own martial spirit aura, controlling 10,000 swords. What a terrifying scene it is. Zhu Zuqin heard Liu Yulong's words and was thoughtful. Looking at Yun Feng, he asked, "Has your soul power been consumed?" Yun Feng felt the abundant soul power in his body and shook his head, but he had just summoned 10,000 blue-silver emperors and cut them out. Yun Feng realized something, and immediately hugged Ning Rong and kissed her face hard. Rong, you are really my lucky star. If you hadn't reminded me, I wouldn't know it. Ning Rong's face suddenly turned red with shame. If you say it so bluntly, I won't be shy. Like a spoiled child, she softly hit Yun Feng's chest a few times, buried her face in Yun Feng's chest. Seeing Ning Rong like this, Yun Feng also smiled slightly and looked around at everyone. Everyone, practice this distraction control in the future, and practice according to my method. Zhu Zuqing, Dao Wu and others also nodded. Even Liu Yulong did the same. After all, this can really increase your combat ability. Yun Feng gave this method to the women, and originally wanted to give it to Liu Yulong, but Liu Yulong refused because he had no name or status. After thinking about it carefully, Yun Feng decided to forget it. Anyway, it would not be too late to give it to Liu Yulong after the relationship was confirmed. It was not appropriate to give the things of the 7 Treasures Glazed Tile sect to Liu Yulong now. It was not until the 3rd day of the All-Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Elite Competition that Yun Feng and others stopped practicing. 2 days had passed since the start of the competition, and all Soul Master Academies had completed the first round of preliminaries. There is no doubt that among the 28 Soul Master teams, the most unlucky ones are those of the Tandu Royal Academy. Although there are healing soul masters to heal their injuries, the injuries of broken bones and tendons cannot be healed in 1 or 2 days. However, the opponents are Yu Tan and others after all. With the full treatment of Tandu Royal Academy, and even the help of the royal family, he got much better. Although there are still some injuries, it will not affect the battle of Yu Tan and others. It's just that you need to be careful. Today is the 2nd round of the preliminaries. When Yun Feng and others came to the outside of the Tandu Great Fighting Soul Arena, they immediately felt the different treatment. When the audience gathered outside the Great Fighting Soul Arena and prepared to enter the arena saw their outfits, they consciously made way for them. Although there were discussions, they were much smaller than last time. Those eyes that were like thorns in the back almost disappeared. There was more awe. As the first game of the first round of the preliminaries, Lanba Academy left a deep impression on the audience. Although the battle was very short, but the crazy explosive power and cruel attack methods shown by the 7 people from Lanba Academy made the audience shaken. The display of strength made these audiences no longer dare to underestimate this playboy team. However, Lanba Academy's close today did have a few more advertisements. They are all the merchants with the highest bids in Tandu City. However, the appearance of the advertisement did not affect the overall image of Yun Feng and his friends. Instead, it attracted more merchants who wanted to invest. It made people jealous. They entered the Great Fighting Soul Arena under the gaze of the audience. This time, 2 staff members immediately came up to greet them and led them to the rest area of the participating teams. Since yesterday, 14 games have been held every day. Seeing the arrival of Lanba Academy, the players from other academies cast a lot of eyes. The most concerned were undoubtedly Ning Rong, Dao Wu, and Zhu Zuqing, who showed terrifying strength. As for Yun Feng, those who understand naturally understand the value of it. Those who don't understand, all think it's just a show-off. After all, he didn't even dare to go to the first round. What's there to be afraid of? Dean, who is our opponent today? Ignoring the eyes of the people around him, Juzuking looked at Liu Erlong and asked slowly. Liu Erlong noticed everyone's eyes at this time and smiled. You have heard of the Elephant Armor sect, right? It ranks 6th among the 7 major sects. Your opponent today is from the Elephant Armor Academy founded by the Elephant Armor sect. The 7 contestants on the other side are all direct descendants of the Elephant Armor sect. 3 of them have reached level 40, and the other 4 are also close to level 40. They can be said to be the new generation of elites of the Elephant Armor sect. Elephant Armor sect? Upon hearing these 3 words, Juzuking's expression became solemn. She knew very well what the 3 words Elephant Armor sect meant. Just like the 7 treasures glazed tile sect is known as the strongest auxiliary sect, the Elephant Armor sect also has its own title. That is the strongest defensive sect. The ancestral martial spirit of the Elephant Armor sect is called the Diamond Mammoth, which is a super martial spirit with extremely high defense. Its characteristics are mainly reflected in strength and defense. There are almost no soul masters who can break through their defense with martial spirits of the same level. If it weren't for the fact that the Elephant Armor sect did not have a titled Buo, I'm afraid their ranking would not be just 6th among the 7 major sects. Despite this, the leader of the Elephant Armor sect, a soul Buo at level 87, can also rely on his strong defense to withstand some title Buo who are not the main attackers. This shows how powerful his martial soul is. Yun Feng frowned at his little cat and smiled and said, Juking, what's wrong? Is there any difficulty? Juzuking shook her head, and a hint of fighting spirit flashed in her eyes. It's okay, I was just a little stunned when I heard the title. Seeing that she was getting better, Yun Feng knew that Juzuking was extremely competitive, and couldn't help but remind her, the Elephant Armor sect is least good at speed. It is a good choice to consume the opponent's soul power by fighting. Although the opponent does not have an auxiliary soul master, because of the same martial soul, the superimposed power is extremely amazing. However, Juking, you are good at speed, so you can contain them. Chapter 286. My head started to itch. Hearing Yun Feng's analysis, the girls nodded. Seeing them like this, Yun Feng smiled and said, how about I go on stage? Hearing Yun Feng's words, Juzuking shook his head, looked into Yun Feng's eyes and said, brother, don't go on stage, let us do it. We also want to test how strong we are. Zhao Wu and others' voices also rang out. Zhangzhu, Huang Yuan and others patted their chests and said, Senior, you can rest assured, we will definitely bring back the victory. Yun Feng didn't think much about it. He was full of confidence in Zhao Wu and others. It's just that they have too little experience in fighting. That's why they are so solemn. You know, they have taken the fairy grass and practiced skills such as Zhuantian Gong. They are no longer something that ordinary people can defeat. It's just that they don't have much confidence. Okay, then I'll wait for your good news. Don't be afraid, fight boldly. If it doesn't work, I'll cover you. Hearing Yun Feng's assurance, the corners of everyone's mouths also curved upwards. Compared with Yun Feng and others, Qin Ming started to quarrel. The team they were facing was not a weak team, and now they were all injured. On the one hand, Flanders wanted to admit defeat and maintain his strength. On the other hand, Yu Tan and others wanted to fight. The atmosphere became stalemate. In the end, Qin Ming compromised. He didn't even think that Yu Tan and Mengren could win the championship. If Yun Feng, his junior, was in Tandu Royal Academy, he wouldn't worry. But Yun Feng went to Lanba Academy. He now wanted to use the rules reasonably to see if he could get a second place. The third day of the All-Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Elite competition officially began. 10 of the 28 teams entered the venue. The layout of the huge square was different from the first day. In addition to the central competition platform that Yun Feng and his team had used before, 4 arenas of the same size were built next to it. Although the area of these 5 arenas was large, it was not crowded in the Tandu Great Soul Fighting Arena that could accommodate 80,000 people to watch the game at the same time. All 28 teams were still divided into 3 groups in the third day of the battle. and Lanba Academy was one of the first to go on the field, due to their terrifying explosive power in the first game, and their opponent was also the Xiangji Academy, which was highly favored to win the championship this time. Therefore, the game between them was still arranged on the main stage in the center, as a grand event that happens once every few years, and the Soul Masters participating in the game are all targets for recruitment by all parties. The VIPs watching the game in the VIP stands today were almost the same as those in the opening ceremony on the first day. Not only were the top leaders of the empire present, but the emperor of the empire, Zhu Yi, was still sitting in the center of the first row. However, the two people beside him today became four. In addition to the leader of the Seven Treasures Glazed Tile sect, Ning Fengzi, and the Platinum Bishop Ceres, the extra two people, one of whom was one of the two titled Buo of the Seven Treasures Glazed Tile sect, Bone Buo Gurong. The other person was a bit weird. Not to mention that many of the empire's top leaders in the VIP seats were looking at him. Even the audience and the audience seats farther away on both sides noticed his presence, because this person's appearance was really special. The word special is not enough to describe him. His body is too huge. Although he is sitting there, his body is much taller than an ordinary person standing. Bone Buo's body frame is already very tall. However, compared with the person next to Platinum Bishop Serat, he is not inferior at all. The height of this person is estimated by visual estimation to be at least 2.5 meters. He occupies 3 large seats in the VIP seats. Sitting there, he is like a mountain of meat. His skin is dark and his eyes are as big as copper bells. There seems to be a special light on his dark skin. The whole person sitting there gives people a very powerful feeling. His hair and beard are all white. He looks at least 70 years old. Ning Fengzi didn't expect this person to appear in the VIP seat. The Bone Luo beside him asked him in a voice transmission, "Fengzi, why is the old guy Hu Yanzhen of Tanxian here too?" Ning Fengzi also answered by forcing the sound into a line, "You can see who the opponent of Xiangji Academy is today." I'm afraid that Ceres called Hu Yanzhen here for them. In fact, Ceres did so. He was eager to see Yun Feng's strength, but looking at the list of participants in this battle in his hand, there was a trace of helplessness in his eyes. He put down the briefing in his hand. His eyes looked in the direction of the spirit hall. He complained in his heart, "Your Majesty, it's not that I didn't report it, but this kid is too patient." The reason why the Spirit Hall is called the strongest in the continent and can even be compared with the two empires is inseparable from the support of the lower 4 sects of the 7 major sects. Among the 7 major sects, the 7 Treasures Glazed sect, one of the top 3 sects, has always supported the royal family of the Tandu Empire. The Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex family remains neutral. The Hashan sect implicitly supports the Xingluo Empire royal family. The 4 lower sects have close relations with the Wuhan Hall. Although they are not affiliated, they are definitely of the same blood. The Xiangji sect is located not far from Tandu City. The Meat Mountain sitting next to the Platinum Bishop Ceres is the leader of the Xiangji sect, Tanxian Huianzhen. If he is not the leader of a sect, how can he be qualified to sit in the first row of the VIP seats? Gurong smiled slightly and said, "It seems that this year's All-Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Elite competition is becoming more and more interesting. It is indeed the rise of the younger generation." Fengzi, when you predicted that they would be the golden generation of the Soul Master world, I was a little skeptical. But now it seems that they should be good. I just don't know what other teams will appear in the finals. Today, the opponent of Lanba Academy is the Elephant Armor sect. Do you still think they will be a good team? You should know that Yun Feng did not play. Ning Fengzi smiled and said, "Why not? Although the strength of the Elephant Armor sect is not weak, their flaws are also very obvious. With Rong's intelligence and the company of extremely powerful partners, as long as they go all out in this game, winning should not be a problem." Gurong looked at Ning Rong off the court, and then looked at Ning Fengzi. His head began to itch. As he spoke, Ning Fengzi's eyes subconsciously drifted to the Platinum Bishop Ceres on the other side of Emperor Zhu Yi, just in time to catch the helplessness that flashed in Ceres' eyes. During the first match, Ning Fengzi had clearly stated the relationship between the 7 Treasures Glazed sect and the Blue Tyrant Academy. At this moment, Ning Fengzi's heart suddenly tightened a little, and he also vaguely understood the real purpose of Sarah calling Tianqiang Hu Yanzhen. And the opponent of the Blue Tyrant Academy in this match did not seem to be met by bad luck. Chapter 287. Are these really humans? Ning Fengzi felt that his guess was most likely the truth. He was like facing a formidable enemy. He forced the sound into a line, and after instructing Gu Rong, his eyes narrowed slightly. But his peripheral vision was always on Sarah's. The Continental High-Level Soul Master Academy Elite Competition was hosted by the Spirit Hall and co-organized by the two empires, although the rules tried to reflect the 4 words of absolute fairness. However, at this time, Ning Fengzi only had 4 words in his mind: secret manipulation. Sarah saw that it was hopeless to recruit, and it was obvious that he intended to suppress the Blue Tyrant Academy before it became famous. I'm afraid that the way the Elephant Armor sect fights today will be the same as the last battle with the Blue Tyrant Academy. What a Platinum Bishop! After realizing this, Ning Fengzi's face suddenly darkened. At the same time, he sighed in his heart, hoping that his protection would not turn into a bad thing. The victory or defeat of this game is no longer important. Ning Fengzi just hopes that Zhao Wu and others will not be seriously injured in this game. If Yun Feng, that little monster, is pissed off, who knows what will happen. Although the players of Lanba Academy were mentally prepared, they couldn't help but gasp when they really saw their opponents. Are these really people? When the 7 players of Xiangji Academy stepped onto the central competition platform, the entire competition platform was shaking with their steps. The people who stepped onto the competition platform didn't look like 7 people at all, but 7 mountains. They were all dressed in black. Among the 7 players of Xiangji Academy, the shortest one was just over 2 meters tall, and the tallest one was even over 2.5 meters tall. Standing in front of the players of Shrek Academy, they were completely condescending. Compared with their height, what was even more terrifying was their weight. Just by visual inspection, Zhao Wu could see that among the 7 people, the smallest one weighed more than 300 kilograms, and the tallest one was probably at least 500 kilograms. Compared with them, there was no difference between her and them. The same black hair, shaved on both sides. Only the hair in the middle was combed into a strange ponytail, and the dark skin was not much different from the clothes they were wearing. 7 people stood in a row, blocking the view of the players from Lanba Academy like a thick wall. Standing in the middle was the sturdy man. He took a step forward and stood with his legs apart. There were 2 loud bangs on the ground of the competition stage, which shook violently. Elephant Arm Academy Team, Captain, Hu Yanli. Level 43 Defense Department Battle Soul Sect. The captain's voice was muffled, and the fat on his body seemed to tremble slightly with his voice. His small eyes stared at Zhu Zuqing in front of him, not daring to despise him. After all, they were also at the scene, watching the game. They knew how Tandu Royal Academy was defeated. Zhu Zuqing took a step forward without showing any weakness. Although her weight was not enough to cause a shocking effect, her momentum was not inferior at all. Lanba Academy Team, Vice Captain, Zhu Zuqing, Level 38 Agility Attack War Soul Master. Both teams, salute. Daima Bai, Level 40, Oscar, Level 34, Tang San, Level 34, Ma Hongjun, Level 33, Zhao Wu, Level 35, Ning Rong Narong, Level 37, Zhu Zuqing, Level 38, Yun Feng, Level 58. The referee shouted loudly. Led by Zhu Zuqing and Hu Yanli, a total of 14 players from both sides bowed and saluted to each other at the same time. The atmosphere in the field became solemn almost in an instant. The first game of the second round of the preliminaries officially begins. The 5 games that were being played at the same time were announced to start almost at the same time. At that moment, in the 5 games, 70 students from 10 academies activated their soul rings at the same time. Suddenly, the entire Tandu Great Soul fighting field became dazzling. The cheers of the audience also broke out at the same moment. The martial soul possessed the body, and the weapon soul summoned. In an instant, the dazzling soul ring halo filled the air. The 7 direct descendants of the Elephant Armor sect standing in front of the Blue Tyrant Academy team took off their shirts at the same time to reveal their fat bodies. Soon, they used the changes in their bodies to tell the audience why they took off their shirts. The originally extremely strong body swelled again with the roar of the martial spirit. Some of the loose fat was rapidly swelled, turning into exaggerated and terrifying muscles. A layer of dark yellow stratum corneum appeared on the surface of the skin, shining with a metallic luster. What made them look even more inhuman was that their noses were also extending and lengthening at the same time. At the same time, the upper lip turned up, and the two fangs grew a full foot. The 7 people raised their right feet at the same time and stomped heavily on the ring, with a loud bang. Not only did it attract the audience's attention, but it also made everyone worry whether the competition stage could withstand their violent power. Among the 7 people, the 3 in the middle all had 4 soul rings, 2 yellow and 2 purple, and the 4 people next to them had 3 soul rings, 2 yellow and 1 purple. A smile appeared on Zhuzukin's pretty face. She remembered what Yun Feng had said to her. It seems that the bigger the body of the disciples of the Elephant Armor sect, the stronger their strength. One can judge the strength of each person from their appearance. She already had a plan in mind. In the VIP seat, Platinum Bishop Salaz looked at the mead mountain beside him. Hu Yanzhen nodded to him and said in a deep voice, Ali is the most outstanding disciple of the younger generation of my Elephant Armor sect and my eldest grandson. His innate talent is a few points better than mine back then. I hope he can become the first titled Buo of the Elephant Armor sect in the future. Hu Yanzhen did not hide his voice. Not only Salaz heard it, but also the Snow Knight Emperor, Ning Fengzi and Gu Rong in the first row. The Snow Knight Emperor smiled slightly and said, "It is really worth celebrating that Sect Master Hu Yan has such a grandson." Hu Yanzhen laughed loudly, shaking the VIP seat. "Your Majesty, you are too kind. Let's watch Ali's performance. This time, our Elephant Armor sect's goal is to be in the top 3 of the finals." Salaz and Ning Fengzi glanced at Hu Yanzhen. There was something strange in his eyes. "Top 3, what a feeling," Emperor Zuyi said calmly. "However, if I am not mistaken, Ling Sun and his opponents this time seem to be not simple either." Hu Yanzhen was stunned for a moment. He had never thought that his disciples would lose. In addition, the figures of their Xiangjia sect disciples were really incomparable to others, so naturally they did not pay attention to their opponents. At this time, after hearing what Emperor Zuyi said, his eyes fell on Zhao Wu and others. Hu Yanzhen did not come here to watch the opening ceremony before. He did not come back until their Xiangjia sect competed. All members have 3 rings, and they also want to compete with their Xiangjia sect. But on second thought, a group of level 30 boys and girls can be so valued. There must be something extraordinary. Hu Yanzhen looked at Sairat with some surprise, but found that Sairat's expression was normal, without any change. Obviously, he had known the fighting power of Lanba Academy for a long time. Chapter 288. Let's rush. Thinking of this, Hu Yanzhen's eyes also had a hint of resentment. It's not that he didn't have confidence in his children, it's just that Sairat was too mean to let them be thugs, but didn't tell them any news. Emperor Zuyi asked Ning Fengzi beside him, "Master Ning, you are very familiar with this Lanba Academy. So do you know who the teacher of these children is? I'm really curious, who can teach such outstanding disciples?" Ning Fengzi smiled slightly, and shook his head under the gaze of Emperor Zuyi. "I don't know either. They don't seem to have any strict teachers. Yun Feng guides them to improve." Emperor Zuyi naturally knew who Yun Feng was. He had also hinted at Ning Fengzi before. He explained that his empire wanted to marry his daughter, but Ning Fengzi fooled him. As an emperor, how could Zuyi not know the meaning of it? So with the help of his staff, he came up with another idea. That is to recruit a son-in-law. In their eyes, Yun Feng was a lecher. He usually traveled with so many girls. The auction house incident is no longer a secret. Thinking of Yun Feng's talent and the situation of his country, Zuyi's mind became active. Looking at Ning Fengzi's face, he complained, "Since you don't want a marriage, then I will marry my daughter. No matter what, I have to have some relationship. When the Tandu Empire is in trouble, I wonder if Yun Feng will come to help." And the next leader of your 7 treasures glazed tile sect is basically confirmed to be Ning Rongrong. As a sister, it is impossible for her not to continue to establish an alliance with the Tandu Empire. Emperor Zuyi felt that he had also got an important point. He couldn't help but jump for joy in his heart. Turning his head and casting his eyes to Yun Feng and the audience, He was still flirting with Miao Miao and Biji. He was very satisfied in his heart. A good man should have the world in his heart. One more is not too many. That young Feng is still a good kid. As far as I know, he is an adopted orphan without any backing. It's not easy for him to get to this point. That's right. While the VIP seats were undercurrents and each of them had their own thoughts, the preliminaries on the 5 competition platforms had officially begun. The 7 meat mountains in front of Zhuzuking and the other 7 people were not like the 7 soul masters of Dandu Royal Academy in the previous game. Instead, the 7 people stood in a row, and the first soul ring on their bodies flashed at the same time, stepping out steadily step by step. Under the effect of the first soul ring, the originally dark yellow keratin of the 7 meat mountains had a layer of crystal color, and each person seemed to be covered with a layer of glaze. The 7 people's bodies were so huge that they pressed forward from the center, almost occupying half of the diameter of the entire circular competition field. Although their pace was slow, as they moved forward, their own momentum would increase a few points with each step forward. Whether in terms of body or soul power, they brought great pressure to the 7 people from Luanba Academy. For some reason, Douluo and the others looked at the 7 people from the Elephant Armor sect and felt that they were one body. Their movements were so coordinated. Zhuzuking looked at the 7 people approaching without any hesitation. She turned her head and looked at Douluo. Douluo nodded immediately. Ning Rong behind her also directly activated the buff. Tang San, Douluo and Zhuzuking were all strengthened. As for Huang Yuan and the others, it was not that Ning Rong did not want to help. She just felt that it was better to keep the soul power at the critical moment and add it to them, so that they could be caught off guard. This was also a tactic that had been discussed early in the morning. Retreat. With Zhuzuking's cry, the 7 people from the Blue Tyrant Academy retreated together, but no one noticed that the soul ring behind Tang San flashed. In this place where the lights were fully lit and the light emitted by the soul rings was everywhere, it was not too conspicuous. But unexpectedly, Hu Yanli seemed to have noticed something. He put his 5 fingers together and waved his palm upward. The other 6 people stopped immediately. They really obeyed orders. Tang San didn't expect that his spirit skills would be discovered so quickly. But even so, Tang San didn't give up, but increased the output of spirit power again. The surrounding blue-silver grass began to spread and grow wildly at this moment. In a flash, it blocked the way of the people from the Elephant Armor sect. Let's rush over. With Hu Yanli's loud shout, the 7 people were like chariots, and their huge bodies began to accelerate continuously, rushing towards Tang San. The ground was constantly shaking. There were waves of dust. But soon, the 7 people felt something was wrong. The blue-silver grass on the ground blocked the way of everyone. Hu Yanli, who realized that something was wrong, looked in the direction of Tang San. He saw that Tang San was still chatting and laughing with Huang Yuan. His eyes suddenly turned red. After feeling the toxins on the blue-silver grass constantly eroding himself, Hu Yanli, there was no way out. He had to break the wall of blue-silver grass in front of him and escape from the encirclement before he could fight. But now that Tang San has been blessed by Ning Rong, it is obviously not so easy to be defeated. Huiyanlu, Huiyanshan, Huiyanxi, Huiyanqi, Huiyangai, Huiyanshai. Activate soul skills. With Huiyanli's roar, the soul rings on everyone's body shook. The first, second and third soul skills all began to shine. First soul skill, Copper Wall and Iron Wall. Second soul skill, Diamond Body. Third soul skill, Suppress and Kill. When Tang San heard this voice, he also turned his head to look at the opposite side. His eyes became serious. Huiyanli's calves sank into the ground with his feet. You know, the ground of this arena is made of granite with a thickness of 1 meter. In the scattered light, he only heard a loud shout. The trouser legs of the 7 people all collapsed, revealing the fine muscles. After a brief hesitation, they rushed towards the Blue Tyrant Academy in front of them, and the third soul ring on their bodies suddenly lit up. His fat body actually flew up into the air, and his whole body was filled with a layer of dazzling purple light, directly locking onto Tang San and Ning Rong. There was no other reason, just because they were standing close enough. Pressing down from the air, their bodies were instantly locked, and Tang San and Ning Rong found that they could not move. facing the opponent's huge body. It seemed that they had no choice but to block it. After all, the Elephant Armor sect was not like the Power Clan, who chose the same attribute for all their spirit rings. While defending, they also had their own attack capabilities. The pressure that Hu Yanli used at this time was one of them. Once locked by his spirit skill, then, the opponent's feet will temporarily lose the ability to move, and they can only choose to block it. This is also the biggest feature of his 1000-year spirit skill. It is also a skill that the Elephant Armor sect has found to be the most suitable for their own use after many generations of spirit masters have studied it. With their huge bodies falling from the sky, coupled with the effect of their own spirit power, the pressure that can be generated can be imagined. Chapter 289. Please don't let anything happen to you, as long as the opponent cannot move to fight hard, not to mention the agility attack spirit master. Even the strength spirit master may not be able to stop it. Of course, the prerequisite for this skill is that the opponent must be within 10 meters of the caster's body. Unfortunately, Hu Yanli, who was no longer very sober, forgot one thing. Yes, Tang San and Ning Rong are now unable to move, but don't forget that her actions are not controlled by her alone. Dao Wu was still watching from the side. In the process of the 7 people pressing down with the unstoppable force of Mount Tai, Dao Wu also quickly operated the ghost shadow and came directly to the side of Ning Rong and Tang San. As for Huang Yuan and others, they had already felt the danger when they saw this scene and ran away. Hu Yanli felt that something seemed to be wrong. He saw that Dao Wu actually made a face at them in the sky at this time. The spirit power surged. Hu Yanli was angry. It's okay that her body was rotten by Tang San's poison. Now she is still mocking them. Under the output of spirit power, the speed of falling increased. Bang, boom. The Tandu Great Soul Arena trembled. It was as if there was an earthquake. Ning Fengzi, Sarah's and Emperor Zhu Yi, who were sitting in the VIP seats, all looked a little unhappy. Only the silly Hu Yanzhen was still praising and saying, "Our Xiangjia sect is quite strong." Ning Fengzi's eyes flashed with cold light. He looked at Hu Yanzhen with cold eyes. He said slowly, "The strength of the Xiangjia sect really opened my eyes. Its strength is close to the top 3 sects. It may not be long before our Kabbalah sect will have to give up the throne." Ning Fengzi said teasing words, but his tone was dead. He looked at Hu Yanzhen as if he was looking at a dead person. Hu Yanzhen suddenly remembered something. It seemed that the target of their attack was Ning Fengzi's daughter. Cold sweat quickly flowed down Hu Yanzhen's forehead. A sense of danger between life and death had already filled his heart. Kabbalah sect has 2 titled Buo. Thinking of this, Hu Yanzhen no longer had the happiness he had just had. He quickly looked at Sarah's. His eyes were full of the meaning of asking for help, but Hu Yanzhen miscalculated. Sarah's looked like he was looking at a dead person at this moment. His eyes were full of pity. Emperor Zhu Yi didn't know why, but he seemed to hear something breaking. Emperor Zhu Yi turned around and looked at Hu Yanzhen, and immediately knew what was breaking. It turned out that Hu Yanzhen's old man's fragile heart was overwhelmed. He slumped in his chair, watching the game on the fighting spirit stage with a dim look. He kept muttering in his mouth, "Bless, don't let anything happen. Maybe God didn't want to see a grown man become like this." He softened his heart. When the smoke dissipated, everyone stared at the fighting spirit stage. He found that Dao Wu, Ning Rong, and Tang San all appeared on the other side. Hu Yanzhen swore that this was the first time he didn't want his team to cause harm to the enemy. After thinking about it, he found that there seemed to be few people above him that he could afford to offend. After carefully looking at the list, Tang San Hu Yanzhen suddenly realized something. A former genius appeared in his mind. He casually wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. He let out a long sigh. Fortunately, nothing happened. Otherwise, 3 titled Buo plowing the land. Who can bear it? In fact, Hu Yanzhen didn't know it. If Dao Wu and others were in trouble, it would not be 3, but 4. In addition to Da Ming and Ming, on the court, Hu Yanli looked at the other 6 brothers. He found that they all shook their heads at him. He turned his head quickly, but what caught his eyes was a black flash rushing over. The light covered the figure, but Hu Yanli still recognized who it was. Zhu Zuqing had already started to act the moment they landed. This is a good opportunity. As long as one of them can be killed, then their battle formation will be greatly reduced. The footsteps moved. The figure moved suddenly. Hu Yanli wanted to remind them, but it was too late. He could only protect his heart. As long as they don't lose their fighting ability, they can still fight when they recover. When Zhu Zuqing saw this scene, the corners of his mouth curved into a beautiful arc. The fourth soul skill was activated. Under Hu Yanli's gaze, the black light began to split. In the blink of an eye, the black light attacked from the front, back, left and right. Zhu Zuqing did not attack his heart or his head, which made Hu Yanli more or less disappointed. The reason why his head was exposed was because he had a head soul bone, but he didn't expect Zhu Zuqing to not intend to hit there at all. This puzzled him. The black light fell, and Hu Yanli's originally majestic body was also covered with dense wounds, especially the hands and feet. Almost all of them were torn apart. The meridians and bones were all cut off at this moment. Hu Yanli looked at this scene and let out a painful wail, but his strong physical fitness prevented him from losing his fighting ability immediately. After feeling that his body could move, he climbed up with difficulty. There was a red in his eyes. The nose and mouth were breathing. Zhu Zuqing stopped when she saw that she was ahead. After all, Yunqi had taught her. She was an assassin and should never fight with a warrior. Yunqi, who was watching the show from above, also said to Liu Rulong, "The elephant armor sect is not bad. It can actually withstand Tang San's control poison and Zuqing's assassination." Liu Rulong's face was solemn. The disciples of the elephant armor sect are not only amazingly powerful, but also very good at using their own advantages. Their terrifying weight is not just for show. Not only can they use their own physical strength to reduce the consumption of soul power, but at the same time, after the combination of physical and soul power, they can burst out more terrifying power and defense. Yunqi nodded in disbelief. Because the ring is circular, both sides were in the widest place in the center at first, but at this time, as the opponent continued to advance, they were blocked by Tang San and blocked their way. As a result, Hu Yanli and others used their killing moves aggressively. Now they have returned to the starting point. Everyone in Lanba Academy came to the place where the Elephant Armor Sect stood at the beginning. The readjusted Elephant Armor Sect, after a simple eye contact, without any hesitation, they all rushed towards Xiao Wu and the others like crazy. They couldn't delay any longer. If Tang San was allowed to control the situation again, they would become fish on the chopping board. Hu Yanli endured the pain and rushed with the large army. However, although they were in a hurry, they did not forget to maintain the formation. They just didn't want to reveal any flaws. Although there were gaps on both sides, they maintained the current formation. They didn't need to capture all the opponent's personnel. As long as they could deal with the non-sensitive attack system, especially the auxiliary system personnel, they would have succeeded. Chapter 290, We will not defend anymore. Let's charge and avenge Hu Yanba. Another meaning of defense is endurance. These 7 disciples of the Elephant Armor Sect were far from being comparable to the Tandu Royal Academy that day. Seeing that none of the opponents had reached level 40 in spirit power, they immediately used the most reliable attack method. The Blue Tyrant Academy was not as surprised as at first. Everyone gathered their spirit power and quietly waited for their captain to give orders. Although the breathing of the 3 new members, Huang Yuan, Zhang Jun and Jingling, began to become rapid under the huge pressure, the calmness of Xiao Wu and others led them to maintain a stable mentality. Tang San, can you stop half of them? Zhu Zuqing looked at Tang San on the side. Tang San smiled and nodded. His control of the field did not dissipate. Instead, he hid around the battlefield. As long as we can stop one person, it will be considered a success. Let's go. With a cry from Zhu Zuqing, except for Ning Rong, the other 5 people did not hesitate at all. They all rushed towards the Elephant Armor Sect. The momentum burst out. No worse than the opponent. The reaction of the 7 disciples of the Elephant Armor Sect was not slow at all. Looking at the other side rushing over, the tallest and strongest Hu Yanli shouted while enduring the pain. The 7 fat men quickly gathered together and formed a back-to-back formation. At the same time, they stretched out their big hands like palm leaves and slapped the 6 people rushing from the front. Seeing this scene, Zhu Zuqing couldn't help but be secretly shocked. The defense of these 7 people was extremely amazing, and with the current formation, There was no flaw at all. It was not easy to break their formation, but fortunately, Yanzi had worn down a lot of their soul power and soul skills before. He also seriously injured Hu Yanli on the opposite side. It was not that there was no chance to dare the opponent's formation. Just when Zhu Zuqing was thinking about how to cut in, Tang San also exerted his strength. The blue-silver grass that had been lurking around suddenly attacked. Hu Yanli only felt a black head. Then one of the 7 people on his side was missing. He didn't even scream. He was tied up directly. Hu Yanba, Hu Yanli and others shouted, but there was no response at all. What was going on? Fear, uneasiness, spreading in his heart. They didn't know how Hu Yanba disappeared. He just disappeared in front of everyone. Weird, too weird. Tang San succeeded, but he didn't sit idle. Instead, he continued to spread the blue-silver grass. Aren't you going to stick together? If you stick together and can't move, you will be beaten. The 2 poisons of corrosion and paralysis are slowly eroding their defenses. Hu Yanli didn't know what to do at this time. He was at a loss, but he remembered that his father had worked hard to get him a piece of head soul bone some time before the game, hoping that he could lead the team to go further. And now, they are about to lose without even touching the opponent. How could he accept this? He bit his tongue hard, looking at the brothers who were still struggling to resist the purple mist. Hu Yanli knew that he couldn't delay any longer. Don't defend. Let's go. Avenge Hu Yanba. The other 5 people also responded one after another. After all, this game was too aggrieved. Revenge for Brother Ba. Roars resounded throughout the great soul fighting arena. The 6 people were like wild beasts that had lost their minds. They desperately touched the blue-silver grass and rushed straight towards Zhao Wu and the others. The explosive power burst out instantly. They firmly believed in one truth. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291. Let's watch the game. Tang San's spirit power definitely can't hold out for long. If such a large-scale spirit skill can still output spirit power, then what's the point? So even though it has been corroded beyond recognition, they are still charging, even for the first time. I feel why their martial spirit is a defensive system. The speed is too slow. Seeing that they really broke through the encirclement, Tang San also looked at Zhu Zuqing and said quickly, I don't have any way now, but they probably won't hold out for long. Under the attachment of my blue-silver grass toxin, they will fall in 2 minutes at most. Zhu Zuqing nodded, and a cold tone came out on her red lips. It doesn't matter, you just rest next. Remember to tie up the fat man on the opposite side. Tang San nodded, but the blue-silver grass couldn't hold out for long. As Tang San's mind moved, the blue-silver grass's large net of spirit power and toxins was instantly broken free. Hu Yanba fell out of the blue-silver grass. He fell to the ground and fainted from suffocation. His whole body was covered with rotten meat, but he was still alive. Hu Yanzhen was watching from above. His eyes were bloodshot. He was wrapped in huge anger, but he didn't dare to speak. The blue-silver grass was also absorbed by Tang San. Since the opponent has already broken through, it is useless on the field. It will also limit the performance of Zhao Wu, Zhu Zuqing and others. Boom! Jingling turned into a skeleton, and the third soul skill, Berserk, was the first to chop Hu Yanli's head. The bone knives transformed by his arms instantly burst out dozens of slashes. But the terrifying thing is that his berserk skill left only sparks on the opponent's head. It was unable to cause any damage to the opponent. Jingling even saw Hu Yanli grinning at him. Following Jingling, it was Zhu Zuqing who arrived. Her strongest single target attack, Netherworld Slash, instantly erupted, and her hands were clasped above. Coupled with the momentum of falling from the sky, with her soul power, this attack was far beyond what Jingling could match. In the midst of a loud bang, even with Hu Yanli's defense, his feet were completely sunk into the ground under this attack. A deep blood mark was left in the middle of the forehead, and the outermost layer of ice ridges burst instantly. Hu Yanli's body also shook. It was almost as if Hu Yanli's head was split in half. Seeing Hu Yanli's defense so amazing, She finally understood. Why did Yun Feng tell them not to attack Hu Yanli's head? It would have no effect. Zhu King, who didn't believe in evil, was also shocked after trying it. Huang Yuan and Enzin killed almost at the same time, and Enzin's Yan Fan Feng blade and Huang Yuan's angry wolf roaring bullet bombed at almost the same time. And this time was exactly when Hu Yanli's outer layer of defense was broken and he was the most vulnerable. Both of them added 2 more wounds to the body that was already seriously injured. If it weren't for the consideration that they couldn't kill the opponent, these 2 attacks might have landed directly on Zhu King's forehead that had just broken his defense. Seeing that the 3 of them succeeded, Dao Wu was not to be outdone. A teleportation came directly above Hu Yanli. After rotating 720 degrees in the air, he found the most perfect point of force. A heavy kick came straight to Hu Yanli's forehead. Dao Wu also wanted to try it. Whose head is so hard? Yun Feng, who was sitting on Bai Ji, was in tears and laughter. I don't want them to do it, but they still argue. Bai Ji has also learned a lot of human knowledge during this period. Slowly said, it might be better if you didn't say it before. This is called rebellious psychology. However, something Zhao Wu didn't expect happened. Without any warning, Hu Yanli suddenly had a helmet on his head. That's right, it was a helmet. The khaki helmet looked neither conspicuous nor dazzling, but it was such a helmet covering the entire head that resisted Zhao Wu's heavy kick with potential energy acceleration. Boom! Hu Yanli's calf also sank into the ground after his feet. You know, the ground of this arena is made of granite with a thickness of 1 meter. This shows how outrageous Zhao Wu's kick was. Hu Yanli wanted to ask the other brothers to help him resist the siege from the opposite side, but he glanced away. After discovering the blow, Zhu King, Huang Yuan and Jingling all entangled their brothers. Even Tang San threw a snake fang from time to attract the hatred of one. The helpless Hu Yanli suddenly looked up at his father for some reason. Looking into his eyes, Hu Yanli didn't understand what kind of eyes that was. Helplessness, pity, anger, and depression filled the whole person. Hu Yanli was angry. Dao Wu, who was closest to him, could clearly feel that the power of this terrifying fat man had increased again, and it increased to an extremely terrifying level. Not only did the whole person's body expand again, but the 4 spirit rings on his body also shone at the same time. Helmet? The rules of this elite competition for advanced spirit masters in the whole continent stipulate that contestants are not allowed to use any equipment. The opponent will not be unaware of this. A brilliance flashed in her mind instantly, and Zhao Wu, who was in front of her, suddenly shrank her pupils. 2 words immediately emerged in her mind. Soul bone. That's right, the helmet on Hu Yanli's head is the soul bone. Soul bones are divided into 6 parts: head, limbs and torso. The helmet on Hu Yanli's head proves that he has the skull of the 6 soul bones. Although Zhao Wu's soul beast does not need soul bones, but I still feel angry after seeing it. Of course, if it was Yun Feng, they would say it. Kill the beast and take the bones. Everyone knows the value of soul bones. Each soul bone is absolutely astronomical, and few people are willing to sell it. Once the fact that you have soul bones is exposed, it will undoubtedly become the object of covetousness of some people. Although Hu Yanli's strength is good, he is only at level 40. In front of some senior masters, it is not easy to keep your soul bone. If it were not for the fear of irreversible consequences of continuous attacks on the head by the opponent, Hu Yanzhen would never allow Hu Yanli to use this soul bone. So before the game, Hu Yanzhen told Hu Yanli, if you really have to, you can use the soul bone. But in the face of the situation created by Lan Ba Academy, in order not to be beaten into an idiot or severely injured in the head, Hu Yanli can be said to be the future of the entire Xiangjia sect. Ordinary audiences didn't know what the helmet was, and low-level soul masters might not be able to guess it, but how could the people in the VIP seats not see it? Platinum Bishop Salas looked at Hu Yanzhen beside him in surprise, with a glimmer of envy and jealousy in his eyes. Ning Fengzi smiled and said, congratulations to Sect Master Hu Yan, your grandson already has a head soul bone at such a young age. It's really a cause for celebration. However, Sect Master Hu Yan should also be careful. Don't let someone with ulterior motives plot against you. Hu Yanzhen's face was as gloomy as water. Although Hu Yanli had resolved the crisis, he didn't feel happy at all. It was definitely not a good thing for the soul bone to be exposed in such a public place, and he remembered what Ning Fengzi had just said to him. He snorted coldly. I am a disciple of the Xiangjia sect, so you don't have to bother sect master Ning to worry about me. Gurong beside Ning Fengzi saw that the sect master was contradicted by the other party twice, and he couldn't bear it anymore and was about to explode. But Ning Fengzi pulled him back and raised his hand to point at the competition stage. Let's watch the game. Chapter 292. It's so frustrating. Although he blocked the attacks of Zhuzuking and Zhao Wu with his soul bone, he was also dizzy. Two level 40 soul masters attacked the same place with all their strength. If it weren't for his soul bone, he would have been knocked to the ground. However, the dizziness caused by the attack on his head made it impossible for him to remain calm as usual. At this time, all he wanted was to deal with his opponent first. Seeing that the opponent was coming to grab him, Zhao Wu was not in a hurry and bounced up with both feet at the same time. He tapped Hu Yanli's arms respectively. In terms of flexibility, how could this big guy compare with Zhao Wu? With the help of the elasticity of his feet, Zhao Wu flew into the air, and with the help of Zhuzuking's control of the crane and the dragon, he instantly rose into the air. Hu Yanli, who had lost his target, still wanted to use suppression to help his brothers out. He aimed his eyes at Huang Yuan and others, but how could the heavenly Zhao Wu let him get out of the situation so easily? And Hu Yanli couldn't hold on for long in his current situation. With a thought, Zhao Wu teleported to Hu Yanli's head again. The ankle hooked the helmet made of soul bone. Under the effect of Hu Yanli's soul skill, the moment of jumping, Zhao Wu directly launched the waist bow. Hu Yanli felt bad. His soul skill hurt himself instead. His body shape was no longer under his control. Zhao Wu did not expect that this cooperation would be so good. It was simply amazing. Zhao Wu did not hesitate too much, and exerted force with both legs, directly deviating the direction of Hu Yanli's jump. The reason why she did not want to use this trick before was because the people of Xiangjia sect were too heavy, and with the protection of soul power, the waist bow might not be able to drive. Now it is different. The enemy's cooperation has greatly reduced her burden. After rotating 720 degrees in the air, Zhao Wu's calves loosened and threw Hu Yanli directly to a higher altitude. Zhuzuking's peripheral vision has been paying attention to this side. Seeing such a good thing, she immediately turned into a shadow and ran directly to the direction where Hu Yanli fell. After looking at Zhao Wu, both sides understood what the other was thinking. Exchange venues. Zhao Wu flashed in front of the person fighting Zhuzuking. The fight started directly, without giving them any chance to support. Zhuzuking had already prepared below. The nether slash was already in place, just waiting for the prey to fall. Hu Yanli, who was in the air, had no leverage at all. At this moment, he saw all the spectators in the Tandu Great Fighting Arena. He felt more relaxed than ever. He really couldn't say the word surrender. So it was better to lose like this. He lost too much blood, and his physical strength could not support him to continue fighting. Hu Yanzhen, who was sitting in the VIP seat, also understood Hu Yanli's thoughts. He closed his eyes. The bang appeared again. Hu Yanli was directly slashed by Zhuzuking and fell under the fighting arena. Disqualified. The other 5 people wanted to resist when they saw their eldest brother being beaten like this, but Hu Yanzhen stood up and ignored Sarat's instructions. He said directly, "We, the Elephant Armor Sect, surrender." The 5 people from the Elephant Armor Sect suddenly lost all their energy and spirit. They collapsed on the ground. Looking at the people from the Blue Tyrant Academy who were still standing on the fighting arena, a feeling of powerlessness rose in his heart. How to fight? They came here with high hopes, but they were beaten like this. The opponent didn't even receive any damage. Once Hu Yanli was defeated, the formation of the entire Xiangjia Academy would be destroyed immediately. Without the backbone, their defense would no longer be perfect. Is it only a matter of time before they lose? They knew it very well. The remaining 5 people, under the referee's announcement, also stood up and supported Hu Yanli, who had already lost. "You are very powerful, but it won't be long before we will meet again." Zhuzuking smiled lightly and said, "You are welcome at any time." Both sides saluted their opponents at the same time. The difference was that the 7 people from Lanba Academy showed excitement in their eyes for defeating a strong enemy, while the eyes of the 7 people from Xiangjia sect were full of unwillingness. From the beginning to the end of the game, they were completely in a feeling of having no place to use their strength. How uncomfortable it was to meet such an opponent. Although they lost this game, just like Hu Yanzhen's idea, they still believed that their strength was above that of Lanba Academy. It was very aggrieved. The audience was completely excited the moment the match ended. At the beginning, only a few people shouted the name of Blue Tyrant Academy, and as if a fuse had been lit, more and more people shouted. When the 7 people from Blue Tyrant Academy walked off the stage, the audience had even forgotten that there were still several games that had not ended. The entire stand had set off a wave of shouting for Blue Tyrant Academy. Most of the audience were not spirit masters. As the saying goes, laymen watch the excitement, and the 7 people from Blue Tyrant Academy brought them the most dazzling game. Whether it was Tang San's trapping and poisoning tactics at the beginning, or Hao Wu and Zhu Zuqing's cooperation later, and the appearance of beautiful women, they all left a very deep impression on the audience. The huge difference in size between the two sides made the audience see Blue Tyrant Academy as the weaker party, and sympathy for the weak is the most common emotion for ordinary people. When Blue Tyrant Academy finally defeated their opponents, in the eyes of the audience, this was a classic battle of the weak defeating the strong. Yun Feng also nodded above. In his opinion, Tang San should be the best player of the game. After all, his martial spirit has not been strengthened, but on the fighting spirit stage, he is simply invincible. He is worthy of being the protagonist. After all, the space is fixed here. It's too foul. This is because the defensibility of the elephant armor sect is high. If it were other teams, they might not even be able to get out of the purple mist and would surrender. However, when Tang San came down, he also leaned on Jingling and Huang Yuan. His face was a little pale. Obviously, too much soul power was consumed. After Huang Yuan and others felt it, they also silently supported Tang San. Are you kidding? The name just made. Don't save face. After watching, Yun Feng also pulled Baiji and Miao Miao and Liu Erlong to leave the spectator seat. Yun Feng didn't want to watch the following game. In his eyes, no one can beat him, and there is no point in watching. After Zhu Zuqing led the team to the lounge to change clothes, Yun Feng and others also came. While the audience was still there, they quickly left the Tandu Great Fighting Spirit Arena, ran back to the academy in one breath. They didn't want to be surrounded by others. However, the Tandu Great Fighting Soul Arena did not calm down because of their departure. The atmosphere in the normal arena had become extremely boiling. The cheers of the 4 words Lanba Academy continued until the other 4 games were over. In the VIP seats, Tang Xian Huiyanzhen's emotions had calmed down at this time, and he sat there with a deep look. The Platinum Bishop Saras beside him looked thoughtful. Emperor Zui always had a smile on his face, and occasionally whispered a few words to Ning Fengzi, the leader of the 7 Treasures Glazed sect. The contestants were in a corner of the viewing platform. Chapter 293, he began to have evil thoughts. The players wearing the Moon-White Kangui Academy uniforms all had gloomy looks in their eyes. They never thought that the opponent they made fun of would be so strong. They could even defeat an opponent like Xiangjia Academy. You know, their first opponent was Xiangjia Academy, and the result was a miserable defeat. And this year's Kangui Academy is led by Soul Saint Xinayan, and the goal is to advance to the promotion match in the finals. At this time, they have already lost a game. If they continue to lose, how can they achieve their goals? Xinayan began to have crooked ideas. These students are also very outstanding in Kangui Academy. But no matter how outstanding the students are, they only have one chance in their lifetime to participate in the elite competition of Advanced Soul Master Academy in the All-Continent. How could they be willing to let such an opportunity slip away? They are not like Xiangji Academy, who have absolute confidence in advancing to the promotion match. Xinayan put his hands behind his back and glanced at his students. You don't need to think too much, just win the second round first. You should keep increasing your number of victories. As for the next academy, I will take care of it. After hearing what Xinayan said, the students of Kangui Academy couldn't help but be refreshed. They all knew the vice president of the academy very well. For a moment, the smiles on their faces became strange. They remembered the people from Tandu Royal Academy. Of course, Lanba Academy also remembered them. but they didn't dare to think about it. There were too many titled Buo involved. A week passed quickly. The preliminaries of the All-Continent Advanced Soul Master Academy Elite Competition also successfully completed the first 6 rounds of the competition. Among them, there were 3 academies that won 6 games, including Lanba Academy, except for the second game against Xiangjia Academy, which caused them some trouble. The 4 opponents they met afterwards were all easily won, but Yunfeng didn't play in any game. The other 2 academies that also won 6 consecutive victories were Thunder Academy and Divine Wind Academy. Today is the 8th day of the preliminaries, and the 7th round of the competition will begin. Lanba Academy's opponent is Othello Academy, which only won 2 games in the previous competition. It is precisely because of the weakness of the opponent that they were not arranged to play in the center main arena this time, because today's game in the center main arena is also a highlight, and 2 strong teams will compete with them at the same time. They are Xiangjia Academy and Thunder Academy. After learning about today's opponent, Ningrong also left the court, giving Jiangsu a chance to play. However, Jiangsu didn't stand for a minute after she came on the court, and the game was over. Looking back on this period of time, it seems that all of the games have been like this. Jiangsu inexplicably felt that she seemed to be here to make soy sauce. When the few people who returned to the rest area met a group of people who were walking in from outside, it was Tang San and others who came in from outside. After a simple greeting, before they had taken a few steps, they heard a quarrel behind them. The eyes of the players on both sides collided in the air, and both sides saw the sparks in each other's eyes. Daimabai raised his hand and pointed at the young man who was the leader with his index finger, then made a palm knife slashing motion. The people from Lanba Academy had no good impression of Kangui Academy, and Liu Erlong didn't even look at them. He walked over with everyone from Lanba Academy in silence. The old man named Shi Nian paused for a moment. A strange color flashed in his eyes, and he turned his head to glare at his team members, stopping some of them who wanted to take action, and the 2 sides passed each other. Flanders on the side said calmly, "Okay, you all should calm down. They are not the opponents you should consider." Through the competitions in the past few days, I have a simple understanding of all the participating teams. Among these teams, only 6 can pose a threat to you. Only these 5 teams have the possibility of hiding their strength. Among these 6 teams, you have already met the Elephant Armor Academy, which is considered a narrow victory. The possibility that they still have hidden abilities is the smallest. After all, Hu Yan's soul bone has been exposed. I heard that the leader of the Elephant Armor sect, Tanxian Hu Yanzhen, is with these family members every day, and he is afraid that Hu Yanli will be targeted by someone with ulterior motives. As for the other teams, I am not very worried. After all, your strength is here. I am just afraid that Yunfeng from the Blue Tyrant Academy will play. The other 4 academies that can pose a threat to you are Thunder Academy, Divine Wind Academy, Danshui Academy and Blazing Fire Academy, but they are not a big problem. You should have also discovered that from the names. These 4 academies represent 4 powerful abilities: thunder and lightning, wind, water and fire. In addition, the defensive ability of the Elephant Armor Academy is earth. They are collectively known as the 5 elemental academies in the Tandu Empire's academy world. There is a certain background behind each academy. Juzukin and others also listened to Flanders' introduction seriously. On the other hand, since the Blue Tyrant Academy team achieved results, more and more people came to seek cooperation. Liu Erlong consulted Yunfeng and others. After a brief discussion with everyone, Yunfeng also agreed to this matter. He began to make a large number of Blue Tyrant Academy team uniforms for sale, and each uniform is printed with the names of the players. Because Yunfeng didn't play much, his uniform sales were the worst, and Zhao Wu and others are almost sold out. Yunfeng looked at the money coming in every day and smiled and put forward several suggestions. For example, selling mascot peripherals and so on. The business is even more popular. Because Yunfeng didn't plan to play so soon, so Liu Erlong also brought Zhao Wu and others to the spectator seat to observe the competition between the major academies. Make more preparations. But in a while, the game has already started, and Liu Erlong directly told the news of the following 10 teams. However, What surprised Huang Yuan and others was that all the players of the Kamikaze Academy actually had the ability to fly. But think about it. It makes sense. After all, it is called kamikaze. If it can't fly, it feels a bit weird. But this is undoubtedly a headache. Whether it is Lanba Academy or other academies, facing the Kamikaze Academy with absolute air supremacy, it is not so easy to fight. And the players of Tanshui Academy are all girls, and they are all beauties. It is not difficult to see how outrageous the popularity of this team is from the excited expressions of the audience, and their opponents are the same. Their opponents haven't made a move yet, and their bones are already half soft. They have no fighting spirit and are only busy looking at the beauties. They are also light and fluttery, like a group of pigs. How can such a game continue? Chapter 294. Liu Long, where are we going? Yun Feng, date. Yun Feng looked at the girls from Tanshui College with interest. If he was to give them a score, the girls from Tanshui College would score at least 85 points. Shui Binger and Shui Douluo could score 90 points. You know, for Yun Feng, this score is not low. And during the time Yun Feng was observing, Tanshui College won the victory without any surprises. The Kamikaze College below was a little interesting. The attack mode of Kamikaze College was simple, but very practical. Facing a group of colleges without the ability to fly, their players were like 7 eagle-like soul beasts soaring in the air and constantly swooping down to attack, throwing down a few soul skills from time to time. The rhythm was very well controlled. Every attack was like a storm. After 3 rounds of swooping, none of their opponents could stand still, and their opponents had no room to fight back at all, and could only watch the attacks from Kamikaze College continue to fall. They left the field sadly. After observing these 2 games, Dao Wu also whispered to Yun Feng beside her, "Brother, why don't the players from the 5 elemental academies have a combination of departments?" Yun Feng looked at Dao Wu with appreciation when he heard her question, and then began to give examples. First, he talked about the purely defensive Xiangjia sect, and then talked about the difference between the Tandu Empire and the Xingyuo Empire. He also talked about the extreme school and the balanced school among soul masters. The 5 Elements Academy in the Tandu Empire is the representative of the extreme school. Only the Tandu Royal Academy is a special case among the strong schools in the Tandu Empire. Everyone looked at Yun Feng, who was talking freely, and they couldn't help but be fascinated. Yun Feng didn't know much about the Xingyuo Empire. Zhu Zuqing took the initiative to supplement. At the end, Yun Feng also said slowly, "This is the struggle between the 2 major schools in the Soul Master world. One school represents balance, and the other school represents extremes. The extreme school believes that the ability of a Soul Master should be as pure as possible, and let his ability develop in a single direction. To highlight this single ability as much as possible is like a person's body. He only has physical strength and talent. Will he exhaust his mind to train his speed?" Ning Rong answered quickly, "No. Why do those thankless things?" Yun Feng nodded in agreement. Rong is right, so this is the extreme flow. Yun Feng paused. But to become a strong person, all aspects of the body must be strengthened. Ning Rong was thoughtful, and her eyes became brighter. Then the absorption of soul rings should be the same principle. Yun Feng thought for a while. Yes, strictly speaking, we should be the balanced school, but we are different from them. We strengthen all aspects. Even the soul power must be trained. The girls understood Yun Feng's words. There was no point in talking about this topic, so Yun Feng casually said something and then looked at the competition venue. "There's no point in talking about this, let's just watch the competition." The girls nodded and stopped dwelling on this matter. As long as they can become stronger, who cares about the virtual faction? Anyway, it doesn't involve them. After watching the competition, the few people returned to the academy to continue practicing. It can't be said that they gained nothing. At least they learned about the opponent's soul skills. Ning Rong also began to practice the sex distraction control, combined with the method given by Yun Feng. Although it was not as outrageous as Yun Feng, the speed of practice was also increased a lot. In the past week, in addition to the competition, everyone has been practicing special training every day. Only Yun Feng was indifferent, looking at the girls practicing. He felt that it was meaningless. It's not that he didn't want to practice, it's just that he didn't play. Staying in the yard and the audience stand, it's boring after a long time. Yun Feng, who had a thought, began to think about Liu Erlong again. After telling Miao Miao, who was helping him with the massage, where to go, he went directly to Liu Erlong's yard, looking at her bent back and plump figure while watering the flowers. Too deadly. Yun Feng retracted his gentlemanly light. He coughed softly. How could Liu Erlong not know that Yun Feng was here? Only he would barge in without saying hello. During this period of time, Yun Feng's influence on Liu Erlong can be said to be getting deeper and deeper. So Liu Erlong didn't care about some of Yun Feng's actions now, and was even very happy. It was even more like a long-lost love. And Yun Feng's eyes just now, with her strength as a soul saint, how could she not feel it? But Liu Erlong didn't know why she was a little happy in her heart. A woman in her old age could actually attract the attention of young people. So when watering the flowers, her waist couldn't help but bend down a little more. But Yun Feng didn't understand Liu Erlong's deep meaning. Dean Erlong, are you watering the flowers? Liu Erlong stood up and looked back at Yun Feng with a white look. Yun Feng was used to being treated like a fool, so he didn't realize that there was any other meaning, and he didn't care. Yeah, water this flower that's about to wither. He touched the gorgeous flower as he spoke. Yun Feng looked at it, and it didn't seem to be withering. He didn't think much about it. He slowly said, Dean Erlong, I'm so bored. Do you want to accompany me to play? Liu Erlong then looked at Yun Feng seriously and frowned. Where are your girlfriends? Yun Feng explained. Except for Miao Miao, they are all practicing. Liu Erlong was silent for a while. Then why don't you take Miao Miao with you? Miao Miao is not suitable for the place I'm going to next. When Liu Erlong heard this, a smile suddenly appeared on her face, and she said in a delicate voice, but I'm the dean. I can't leave my post without permission. Yun Feng thought it was something else, so he said directly, we're not going far, and besides, isn't Flanders here to manage the college? After hearing this, Liu Erlong's eyebrows widened a little. Good guy, you don't even carry yourself anymore, right? This is too outrageous. However, Yun Feng lost himself in the voice of Dean Erlong. He agreed. Yun Feng smiled and said, then Dean Erlong, go change your clothes. We'll leave soon. Liu Erlong responded and walked to her room. In a short while, she was wearing a tight red dress, which made her figure stand out. Yun Feng was stunned for a moment. Liu Erlong noticed Yun Feng's eyes and couldn't help but feel a little proud. He thought of Yu Gang for some reason. He complained in his heart, why was I so blind to fall in love with that thing? I want to die. Yun Feng retracted his gaze, fearing that he would not be able to bear it if he continued to look at it. It would affect his image as a gentleman. Inappropriate. Inappropriate. Liu Erlong came to Yun Feng's side and glanced at Yun Feng. Where are we going? Yun Feng did not hide it and said directly, date. Chapter 295. This trip is really worth it. Yun Feng stood in the sky, looking at the architectural style on the ground and then at Liu Erlong. Dean Erlong, do you know where this is? You're still calling me Dean? After hearing this, Yun Feng was stunned for a moment. Then he thought of something and changed his words, Aunt Erlong. As soon as these words came out, Liu Erlong instantly became unhappy, but seeing the love in Yun Feng's eyes, she instantly understood what was going on. After rolling her eyes beautifully, she followed Yun Feng's path. Liu Erlong had traveled a lot in her early years, so she naturally had a lot of experience. After thinking for a while, she said directly, this should be the Xingluo Empire. Yun Feng said to Liu Erlong, Aunt, let's go for a walk. Liu Erlong nodded, with a lot of thoughts in her mind. Well, I haven't been here for a long time, I don't know if there are any changes. Yun Feng lowered his flying sword and held Liu Erlong's hand. Maybe Liu Erlong was thinking about something, or maybe it was something else. She didn't object to Yun Feng's hand-holding. Her face was slightly red, but she still let him hold her hand. Yun Feng smiled knowingly. In fact, he had long known that Liu Erlong had some feelings for him. Otherwise, he would not dare to be so blatant. After entering the city, the two seemed to have forgotten their identities. Like a couple in love, they walked around. Not to mention, the main city of Xingluo Empire is indeed a little bigger than that of Tandu Empire. When the two walked to the door of Zhu's house, Yun Feng and Liu Erlong also found a carriage, and a young and beautiful woman was getting off. She was 7 points similar to Zhu Zuqing, but she was more mature than Zhu Zuqing, and her mind was a little bigger. The two watched the woman enter the Zhu family. Liu Erlong also said to Yun Feng, "Is that Zuqing?" Yun Feng already had the answer in his heart, but this time he was not here to cause trouble. He was just playing with Liu Erlong. After all, as a man, he still had to do what he promised. He said he would take Liu Erlong out to play, just play. How could he put Liu Erlong aside because of his own reasons? It's not Zuqing, but it should be her sister. Liu Erlong covered her mouth and exclaimed. She has been very close to Yun Feng's small team for some time, so she naturally knows why Zhu Zuqing crossed mountains and rivers to come to the Tandu Empire. The main reason is because of this sister. Liu Erlong, who knew about this, also felt very uncomfortable about Zhu Zuqing's experience. Why is there such an ancestral precept? It's too cruel. Yun Feng didn't say anything, but just took Liu Erlong's hand and left here. Liu Erlong didn't mean to stand out. She knew why Zhu Zuqing practiced so hard, and the main motivation came from the Zhu family. Yun Feng also promised Zhu Zuqing that she would avenge herself. So Yun Feng just took a deep look and didn't say much. When Yun Feng and Liu Erlong turned to leave, Zhu Xiaoyun also turned around and looked at Yun Feng thoughtfully. For some reason, she always felt weird looking at this back. Maybe I'm overthinking. Yun Feng took Liu Erlong to visit the streets and alleys, and bought countless food and toys. When he saw something he liked, Yun Feng would remember that Zhao Wu and others were at home. He also bought a few more for her. When he returned to the academy, it was already night. The night was getting darker, but there were still students at the gate. Seeing Liu Erlong and Yun Feng hugging each other, they all walked back silently. They didn't dare to disturb them at all. They were afraid that Yun Feng would miss them. Liu Erlong in Yun Feng's arms was also blushing at this moment. He didn't think so much just now. Now he felt that the students were giving in. He pushed Yun Feng's arms away in an instant. "I'm going to wash up. It's so late. You should go back early too." Yun Feng looked normal, but the arc of his mouth betrayed Yun Feng's mood at the moment. This trip is really worth it. He had done what he should do, and the rest could only be left to time to ferment. Tang San had just come out of practice and wanted to go to the cafeteria for dinner. A student immediately called him, and put a note in Tang San's hand. Tang San was stunned for a moment, looking at the familiar logo on the note. It was a belt. Tang San immediately realized something. He hurriedly opened the note. He found a sentence written on it. "Go out to the west. See you in the grove." This familiar note, he was sure it was from his teacher, but he couldn't figure out what Zhao Gang was doing. So secretive. He had to do this. Tang San didn't think much about it, and planned to go to the appointment directly. Even Oscar, who was about to call him, was hastily rejected by Tang San. Looking at Tang San's back, Oscar didn't understand. "It's time for lunch. Why are you still going out? It's still noon now. The sun is shining, and the warm light shining on their body gives people a warm feeling." Tang San likes to bask in the sun like this. The feeling of walking while thinking about the problem of cultivation. The whole body is relaxed, indescribably comfortable. But for some reason, Tang San feels that today's road seems a bit long. Although immersed in this environment, it feels like he should have reached the destination. But when he looked up, it seemed that there was still a long way to the grove. "Did I walk too slowly today?" Tang San frowned and quickened his pace again. As he walked, Tang San's pace suddenly slowed down. Indistinctly, he already felt something was wrong. The sun was shining on him, but the warm feeling had disappeared. Instead, a faint chill seemed to quietly come from all directions. He slowed down his pace and stopped. The light in Tang San's eyes suddenly became alert. Everything around him seemed to have not changed. Passers-by passed by him in an endless stream. Wait, a crowd. How could there be a crowd in this place? Tang San suddenly felt something was wrong. After calming down, Tang San raised his foot again and walked forward. However, Zhuan Gong unconsciously gathered. He did not quicken his pace again, but walked forward slowly, while spreading his perception as much as possible, looking for clues that might appear around him. After walking for a while, Tang San suddenly stopped and his face became solemn. "No, There is definitely a problem. Although his perception did not find any problems, Tang San's mind was so meticulous. From the first time he stopped to now, it was almost 1,000 steps. Logically, he should have arrived long ago, but it was still so far away. Tang San left and released his martial spirit, and the blue-silver grass began to spread under his feet. The surroundings suddenly became very quiet, and the sound that should have been in the figure before disappeared quietly at the same time. The scenery in front of him seemed to be covered with a layer of gauze, and everything became unclear at this moment. A faint figure gradually became clear 10 meters in front of Tang San, as expected of a disciple of Blue Tyrant Academy. You are really very vigilant. Unfortunately, you found it too late. It was an old man in white. Tang San had seen this person more than once. It was the teacher leading the team of Kangui Academy, the 72nd level soul saint that Flanders had reminded him to pay attention to, Shi Nian. Seeing this person, Tang San's heart couldn't help but become heavier and heavier. He stared at Shi Nian quietly and said, "So you are a teacher from Kangui College. I wonder what you want to teach me by stopping me here?" Shi Nian smiled indifferently and said, "It's nothing to teach me, I just need you to disappear." Tang San looked at Shi Nian coldly. "Did you write the note to me?" Chapter 296. Tang San was deceived. Shi Nian was stunned, then smiled and said, "It's not me, it's Yao Gang. I saw him wandering around stealthily, so I followed him. When I saw that he was going to meet you, I waited here." Tang San said suddenly, "Where is my teacher?" Shi Nian seemed to have won the game, and he didn't mind chatting with Tang San for a few more words. "That rubbish. I caught him after he found the student who delivered the letter. Look, there he is." Shi Nian dispersed part of the illusion. Yao Gang fell to the ground covered in blood. One of his arms was missing. A hint of coldness appeared at the corner of Shi Nian's mouth. "I have been looking for an opportunity these days, but unfortunately, the students of your team have been with other students, so I can't make a move. Thank you, rubbish teacher, for giving me this opportunity." "What a pity, you are not my Kangui Academy disciples." Tang San naturally knew that he could not defeat the opponent, and now he just wanted to delay time. "For the All-Continental Advanced Spirit Master Academy Elite Competition?" Shi Nian smiled and nodded. "Of course. The next game for you will be with us. You want to kill me?" Tang San's pupils shrank slightly. Shi Nian snorted coldly. "It's all because your Blue Tyrant Academy is too outstanding. As long as you disappear from this world, then our Kangui Academy will have the possibility to advance to the next round." Tang San sneered. "Do you think that if you kill me, your Kangui Academy will be able to defeat our Blue Tyrant Academy?" Shi Nian said lightly, "If killing you doesn't work, I will keep killing until I'm enough. Perhaps, it would be more appropriate to choose the student named Feng next." The atmosphere suddenly became tense. As a disciple of the Tang sect, Tang San naturally could not lose the opportunity to take the initiative. He reacted so quickly that his huge divine crossbow, which had already completed the mechanical huang in his hand, clanged loudly the moment Shi Nian's words fell. 16 sharp iron crossbow arrows with strong penetrating power had reached Shi Nian's chest in the blink of an eye. Light and shadow flickered, and the 16 crossbow arrows disappeared in a flash. However, Tang San's face became even uglier at this moment. He hated Yao Gang, this pitfall. There was no blood. Yes, although the 16 crossbow arrows were directly inserted into Shi Nian's chest, but what horrified Tang San was that no trace of blood flowed out. The crossbow arrows seemed to have disappeared out of thin air, and not even a trace of sound was made. Shi Nian looked at this huge divine crossbow in Tang San's hand with some surprise. "What is that?" "A very powerful weapon. Is it a soul guide?" Tang San ignored his question and just looked at Shi Nian quietly. He said with relief in his heart, "Fortunately, a batch of hidden weapons were left for myself." Shi Nian was furious. How dare the little Tang San ignore him and still smile foolishly? "Among your peers, you are undoubtedly very strong, except for those monsters in Blue Tyrant Academy and Feng, who is known as the Soul King and Soul Duo. It's a pity that you are not him. The gap between you and me cannot be made up by the word genius. The weapon in your hand is good, but unfortunately, everything you see now and the position of your body are all in the broken dream I brought to you. Even the real scene I let you see just now is still an illusion. In my broken dream, I am the master of everything, not to mention that you are only in your 30s. Even the soul masters of the same level as me cannot break free from my broken dream. Tang San's face turned ugly, and he put this huge divine crossbow in his hand back into his soul guide, knowing that this thing was useless to Shi Nian and was no better than a fire stick. Tang San's brain was also working frantically at this moment. Shi Nian looked at Tang San, who was thinking, and did not take action immediately, but said to himself, "In fact, sometimes I envy you, because you have good training resources and the guidance of famous teachers. And at this time in my life, I could only practice silently by myself, so I am very jealous of you so-called geniuses, and my greatest pleasure is to torture geniuses and make you go crazy in my martial arts until you can't bear it and commit suicide." Tang San frowned, with a hint of begging for mercy in his tone. "So, do you have to kill me? There is no room for turning back?" Shi Nian's original anger turned into a grim smile after hearing what Tang San said. "Now that you have seen me, do you think I will let you go? Don't try to struggle, everything is meaningless to you, just enjoy death peacefully. This day next year will be your Memorial Day." Tang San, who didn't have any plug-ins, was also panicked. The resentment towards Yao Gang in his heart became more and more profound. If he hadn't called himself out. Damn it! Tang San, who had no other choice, immediately sat down cross-legged. The surrounding blue-silver grass began to spread wildly. It covered Tang San's body into a huge sphere. "I hope someone in the academy can notice the abnormality." Shi Nian saw this scene and started laughing crazily. "What are you doing? Are you afraid of me? Don't think that you can resist my martial spirit in this way. I am also a soul saint after all. Die in pain." Shi Nian's voice came and went. The surrounding fog began to spread again, and the figure disappeared from the spot. Tang San sat cross-legged in the sphere replaced by the blue-silver grass, with beads of sweat on his face. He didn't know how to face such a dilemma, and he was extremely anxious. Everything around him began to change, and Tang San was suddenly surprised to find that the blue-silver grass that was originally hovering around him under his control seemed to have disappeared. Although they still existed in his senses, there was no trace of them in his sight. The surrounding scenery changed. It was no longer the previous grove. It was a cliff that Tang San was extremely familiar with. Looking at the familiar dozen figures, Tang San was completely panicked. He was originally committing suicide out of fear of crime. Now seeing this familiar old man, the inner defense line collapsed instantly. Looking down, Tang San found that the clothes of the Tandu Royal Academy on his body had been changed. The time in Luo before was like a dream. Is he still the Tang sect disciple who violated the sect rules after all? The dozen figures slowly approached Tang San. They were still muttering. "Tang San, you stole the mysterious heavenly treasure record. What crime should you be punished for?" Hearing this, Tang San immediately wanted to quibble. "No, I didn't steal it." "Then explain where you got the mysterious heavenly treasure record." Tang San was immediately asked and hesitant and couldn't say a word. "Tang San, the sect raised you up, but you did such a thing that is outrageous to both humans and gods. You deserve to die." Tang San wanted to jump off the cliff to resist. He knew the methods of the Tang sect. If he was caught, Tang San didn't dare to believe what would happen to him. But the moment he just moved, he was caught by 4 elders at the same time. One of the elders raised his hand, and the internal energy overflowed from his palm, and slapped his arm with one palm. Tang San screamed, and his entire left arm broke into pieces in an instant. The pain magnified 10 times instantly spread to his brain. His whole body spasmed violently. Chapter 297 Tang San wants to die but cannot. The other 3 elders followed suit. They broke the other 3 limbs. The painful wail echoed on the cliff. However, he did not die. His whole body was constantly convulsing. No matter how intense the pain around his body was, his spirit was still excited, and the excited spirit meant that he had to fully bear every bit of the pain. Seeing the elders take out steel nails and want to nail him to death on the cliff, he panicked. His eyes were full of confusion and anger. "I have been a disciple for 7 years, but I have always been an outer disciple. Why can't I practice? If you don't teach me, what's wrong with me secretly learning? You teach all garbage." Are they half as fast as I practice? The leading elder heard Tang San's words, his face full of disbelief. Pointing at Tang San with trembling fingers, he said, I brought you back home, when you were still in your cradle. You mean you were dissatisfied with the sect when you were 7 years old? The jealousy and indignation in Tang San's eyes did not disappear at all. Instead, it became more and more intense. Yeah, what's wrong? Such a sect should be destroyed. The elders sighed and comforted the old man in the lead. The faces of the elders gradually faded. They left Tang San, whose bones were broken, on the cliff of ghost-seeing sorrow, and told him to let him wail here for 7 days and 7 nights and die in the mouth of a falcon. Tang San's eyes had been pecked away by the eagle, and his flesh and blood attracted a lot of worms, as well as many poisonous creatures raised by the Tang sect. They were all grateful for the gift of nature. Tang San's body began to rot, and his flesh and blood began to disappear. Bones appeared. Tang San wanted to die immediately, but he couldn't do it. When he left, the group of elders had destroyed all his tendons and veins. He didn't even have the strength to move now. Shi Nian looked at Tang San's dream, a little confused. What is this thing? His soul skills create the most fearful things in his heart. But Tang San's dream, Shi Nian has never heard of it. And what kind of power do those old men use? Why can they destroy the human body structure in an instant? Shi Nian's heart is like being scratched by a cat, and he really wants to figure out what is in Tang San's dream. In Tandu City, in a tavern, a middle-aged man with a hood is drinking wine in silence. His eyes are full of comfort. He hasn't had such delicious wine for a long time. This time he came to see his son, knowing that the Soul Master competition is going on now. As a father, how could he not come to see it? But suddenly I felt a pain in my heart, that feeling, as if I was about to lose something. At first, the person I thought of in my mind was my wife, but thinking about it carefully, it is unlikely. After all, living in such a dark cave, there is also a waterfall outside to cover. Who can find it? Besides, the current Yin no longer has the aura of a 100,000-year soul beast. Even if a titled Buo came, he couldn't sense it. After ruling out Yin, Tang Hao could only think of his son Tang San. Throwing down the wine glass, Tang Hao flashed out of the tavern. He rushed directly to the direction of Tandu Royal Academy. Although he had been investigating Tang San these days, but after not finding out that Tang San had contact with others, he assumed that Tang San must have had some kind of adventure, which was why he used the thing called a hidden weapon. Tang San's body spasms and the blue-silver grass seemed to gradually weaken. The whole person was just twitching slightly. The coiled blue-silver grass gradually slid to the ground, and Kan could clearly see a trace of blood flowing from the corner of Tang San's mouth, whose face was flushed. Life energy was constantly fading. Tang San felt that he was about to be unable to open his eyes. He was so tired, feeling the rotten smell and crawling reptiles in the flesh and blood. Tang San couldn't die, and Shi Nian, who had been looking for the answer for a long time, finally couldn't stand it anymore. Prepare to kill Tang San directly to relieve the worries. So what if he is a genius? He will die in the most painful way in my martial soul's broken dream. The smile on Shi Nian's face became more cruel. Just when Shi Nian raised his hands and pierced Tang San's body directly, Tang Hao arrived. He originally planned to enter the academy directly, but when passing by a forest, he saw Yao Gang, covered in blood and lying on the ground with a broken arm. The anxiety in his heart became more and more serious. Tang Hao didn't think much and used his soul power to wake up Yao Gang. Yao Gang, why are you here? Where is Yao San? Tang Hao's tone was very anxious. After Yao Gang woke up, the pain all over his body made him grin and suffer. But Tang Hao didn't have time to give Yao Gang a rest. He slapped him awake. I ask you again, where is Tang San? At this time, Tang Hao didn't care why Yao Gang was like this. Yao Gang was also frightened by Tang Hao's momentum. The murderous look made Yao Gang swallow his saliva. He said tremblingly, it was Shi Nian who attacked me. I asked Yao San to come here, so I shouldn't be far away. Shi Nian? Tang Hao felt that the name was inexplicably familiar, and he soon remembered it. After all, Shi Nian was not an unknown person on the mainland, and Tang Hao had heard of his special hobbies. Thinking of this, Tang Hao didn't care about being exposed. He directly released his soul power and began to perceive a large area. Even the killing god domain was directly released. The first to bear the brunt was Yao Gang. Feeling the substantial murderous aura, Yao Gang was directly shocked and fainted. The injuries on his body became more serious, but Tang Hao didn't have time to care about him at this time. Soon Tang Hao sensed the location of an abnormality. The mental power extended in that direction. He immediately saw Shi Nian and Tang San, who had a broken arm, and the injuries were exactly the same as Yao Gang's. Tang Hao's eyes were suddenly filled with bloodshot and turned red. The whole person was like a bloodthirsty beast. With a kick of his legs, the ground cracked. The person was like a cannonball, stirring up thick smoke. In an instant, he disappeared from the spot. Before Shi Nian's raised hands fell, he felt a sharp pain in his waist. Boom! The sound came first and then came. Tang Hao flew Shi Nian with his head, and the sound wave came over. Shi Nian didn't understand at this time what kind of strong man attacked him. Looking at the clear sky hammer floating above his head, looking at Tang San again, he suddenly wanted to cry but had no tears. What the hell is this? You have a background. Why didn't you say it earlier? Exclamation mark. Feeling the hammer about to fall, Shi Nian suddenly remembered Tang San's memory. The Tang San in the memory was not like this. How old is he this year? And in the memory, he is at least 26 or 27. Thinking of this, Shi Nian's mouth is faster than his brain. When the clear sky hammer was only a finger's width away from his head, he shouted hurriedly, "Sir, he is not Tang San." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298. No matter who you are, I will kill you. The hammer stopped, but for some reason, Shi Nian felt a fear that was more terrible than death. The suppressed voice slowly came out of the man's mouth, but Shi Nian could understand that if he didn't answer this question well, he would die immediately. "Sir, my name is Shi Nian. My martial soul can see other people's dreams, and I just saw a Tang San in his 20s in the dream." How old is Tang San now? 14 years old, and in the dream, Tang San also used energy that was not from this world. Shi Nian swore that his speech speed had never been so fast. He finished it all in one breath, and he was a little out of breath. Feeling Tang Hao's hammer slowly leaving, Shi Nian also had time to think. Looking at the appearance of the man in front of him, he immediately recognized the identity of the man in front of him. 9 rings, titled Duuluo, Clear Sky Hammer. The 9th soul ring is 100,000 years. It is the clear sky Duuluo who disappeared for more than 10 years. That's right. The suppressed hoarse voice slowly sounded in Shi Nian's ears. Are you telling the truth? Shi Nian nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. Of course I dare not lie to Lord Hashin. If I find out that you lied to me, I will torture you until you can't stop. When Shi Nian heard this, he felt like he was in winter. He hurriedly said, Lord Hashin, how about I use the dream again and take you to his dream to check? Tang Hao took a deep look at Tang San, who was still in the nightmare. Seeing the blood flowing all over his body, a trace of heartache flashed in his eyes, but after a brief hesitation, his eyes became firm. He also wanted to get an answer. He couldn't find any clues before, and didn't know where Tang San's strange things came from. Now that he has a goal, he naturally wants to find out. But Tang Hao still said to Shi Nian, you can use the dream, but make sure he doesn't die. Tang Hao's tone was very serious. Shi Nian smiled bitterly. His martial soul is a broken dream. How could there be no harm? But listening to Tang Hao's tone, Shi Nian didn't dare to disagree. He could only use his martial soul in frustration. The surrounding environment gradually became illusory, and Shi Nian slowly disappeared from Tang Hao's vision. Then, under the influence of soul power, Tang Hao's figure also disappeared from the spot. They entered Tang San's dream together. Tang San opened his eyes in a daze, and suddenly collapsed. Looking at the white figures in front of him, wasn't he just hanging on the cliff? He was almost dead. How come he is back now? Tang San's heart was broken. Now he just wanted to die quickly. Without any words, Tang San was ready to directly break his heart veins. Even though he had prepared himself mentally, he still didn't have time. He was directly held by the four elders. Tang San felt unprecedented fear. He knew it was a dream, but the pain brought by the dream was real. He couldn't resist. Shi Nian, kill me. Tang Hao and Shi Nian in the void also watched the scene below quietly. Tang Hao's heart was turned upside down. The man in front of him was definitely not his son, but a completely unfamiliar existence. Moreover, the soul skills they used did not require soul power at all. Something was wrong. Something was wrong. Tang Hao now only wanted to catch Tang San and seriously question him. Who exactly was he? Many conjectures popped up in Tang Hao's mind. Shi Nian secretly glanced at Tang Hao and found that his expression was complicated. He also breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. Tang Hao, who knew the truth, should not do anything to him. Shi Nian thought silently in his heart. After Tang Hao continued to watch in Tang San's dream for a while, he was already certain in his heart. Tears flowed down uncontrollably. How did the child he had been watching since he was a child get swapped? Obviously, he had the blood of him and Yin in his body. But why? Why did it become like this? As Tang Hao waved his hand, Shi Nian also sensibly withdrew the dream, and said humbly beside him, Your Majesty Hashin, can I leave? Tang Hao shook his head and said nothing. Shi Nian felt a little uneasy, but still stayed by his side silently. Not long after, Tang San was no longer affected by the remnant dream and slowly woke up. Kill me, elder. I shouldn't have secretly learned Xuanshan Baolu. Tang San wiped the cold sweat from his head and found that it was just a nightmare. Then he seemed to think of something, and without caring about his broken arm, he stood up hurriedly, looked around, and found his father and Shi Nian. Seeing his backer coming, Tang San couldn't bear it anymore. He cried and said, Dad, kill him quickly. Kill him quickly. Tang Hao's eyes were complicated. Shi Nian realized that something was wrong and just wanted to run away. He was smashed into a pulp by Tang Hao's hammer. Before Shi Nian died, he didn't think that his life would end so easily in the hands of others. His eyes were full of unwillingness, and he left with despair. Seeing his father, he raised his hand and killed Shi Nian who tortured him. Tang San was overjoyed, although his face was still ferocious. The excitement in his eyes could not be suppressed. Father, if you came a little later, I would have almost died. Tang Hao's eyes were full of complicated expressions, but Tang San, who had just escaped, didn't notice. What's wrong with you? Why did you become like this? What did you see in your dream? Tang Hao asked several times in a row. Tang San thought about what happened in the dream and became silent. Tang Hao has been praying in his heart. Dao San, answer me quickly. As long as you don't lie to me, I can lie to myself. You are still my son. Under Tang Hao's expectant eyes, Tang San thought about it and lied. Father, I met many 10,000-year soul beasts in my dream. I couldn't resist. Tang Hao's eyes flashed with disappointment. He understood that his son might have been replaced by others with soul skills on the day he was born. After all, there are all kinds of martial spirits in the world. The raging fire in his heart almost burned all the remaining rationality of Tang Hao. Resisting the killing intent in his heart, Tang Hao squeezed out a reluctant smile. Dao San, your arm is broken. Go back to the academy and see if it can be connected. Tang Hao reminded Tang San. Tang San also realized something. If one of the 5 limbs is broken, who can bear it if the arm is lost and the second one is broken? Without even saying hello to Tang Hao, he picked up the arm that fell on the ground and started to run quickly into the academy. Tang Hao looked at Tang San's back as he went away. He could no longer suppress the anger in his heart. He smashed the clear sky hammer hard into the woods next to him, and then flew away. Only a huge pit was left, which exuded a strong murderous aura. No matter who you are, I will definitely kill you. Chapter 299. Who else? Tang Hao roared loudly in the woods. The sound shook all the surrounding leaves into powder. The reason why he didn't kill Tang San now was because Tang San was still useful to him. After all, he had 2 martial spirits, and he could help him when he took revenge. After venting for a while, Tang Hao instantly disappeared in the woods. When he appeared again, he had already arrived at the famous brothel in Tandu City. It was no other reason. His main account was hacked, so he opened a new one. Tang San, who hurried to the academy, had already forgotten Yu Zhaogang. With the help of many spirit masters, Tang San's arm was successfully reattached, but it looked even uglier now. One arm was long and the other was short. It was extremely inconsistent. Yu Zhaogang, who was awakened by the pain again, looked at his arm that was crushed into foam. He wailed loudly. His heart was already full of holes. His admiration for Tang Hao also disappeared instantly. He cut off his hope of repairing his arm. He was weak to begin with, and now he had a broken arm. Who can bear it? Yu Zhaogang stood up slowly and walked towards Lanba Academy. At this point, he had no other options. If he didn't stop the bleeding, he would die here. When passing by a forest without any leaves, Yu Zhaogang saw a pile of minced meat. There was a faint light flashing inside. After carefully looking around, he realized that he should have left. Then he went forward to take a closer look. Don't be anxious if you don't look. As soon as you see it, your pupils will shrink unconsciously. It was a piece of bone, about 7 inches long, with a slightly curved front end and a 3-inch bulge like a finger bone. From the position, it turned out to be a shrunken left arm bone. 2 words suddenly spread in Yu Zhaogang's mind, causing his brain to fall into a brief blank. Soul bone. Looking at his clothes again, it was the robe on Shi Nian's body. Yes, this must be a soul bone, a left arm soul bone. Shi Nian, who possessed the canon martial spirit, actually had such a treasure. Yu Zhaogang squeezed it into his arms. Enduring the pain, he walked away from the forest. After summoning Luo Sanpao, he dug a deep pit in the ground and buried his soul bone. His soul guide was gone, and now he had nothing to store, and he had to be treated now. He had endured for so long, which was a sign of his strong willpower. Yu Zhaogang did not intend to give this soul bone to anyone. He needed strength now. Relying on others would not work after all. Yu Zhaogang had a deep understanding of this. Even if he did not know whether this soul bone was suitable for him, even the worst soul bone would still have a certain effect. It was better to have it than not to have it. Not to mention ordinary soul masters, even titled Buo, might not have all the soul bones. After covering up, Yu Zhaogang remembered the location of the forest. He came to the gate of Lanba Academy tremblingly, and then he lost too much blood and fainted. Yun Feng did not tell them when he went out, so when he went back at night, he was once again attacked by the girls. The next morning, Yun Feng felt a sore waist. At dawn, he took a nap, but looking at the women who were in a mess, Yun Feng felt indescribably proud. He wanted to shout, "Who else?" He urged his internal force to recover a little under the self-adjustment of his body functions. He slowly inhaled through his nose, urged his internal force to circle around at his meridians, and the discomfort disappeared. Juzuking, as the most diligent representative, found a soft little hand in his left hand when he woke up. It belonged to Zhao Wu. At this time, she was lying on the bed, with her upper body leaning on her side and sleeping soundly. It can be vaguely seen that her eyes are still red, her delicate face is a little pale, her long scorpion braids hang on the edge of the bed, and her long eyelashes are on her eyelids, trembling slightly from time to time. Obviously, she is not sleeping well. Ning Rong also pressed on him. Looking at this scene, Juzuking frowned slightly, her face flushed, and said in a low voice, "Animal." When Juzuking finished saying this, Yun Feng also came to the room with food. Such a dull day lasted for several days. The preliminaries continued. After the 10th round, the teams participating in the Tandu City preliminaries had already opened up the gap. Lanba Academy, with an impressive record of 10 wins, was ranked first. There were several other teams with the same record, including Shen Academy, Danshui Academy, and Blazing Academy. Tandu Royal Academy and Thunder Academy both encountered Lanba Academy, so they both had 9 wins. The last place in the top 5 was also taken by Tang San, who had recovered. He used a small trick and used a hidden weapon without anyone noticing. At the end, he quickly took back the hidden weapon. He successfully came to the 5th place. Xiangji Academy was extremely miserable, with 5 wins and 5 losses in 10 games. And the ranking was only hovering in the middle. Not to mention that Xiangji Academy itself did not expect such a result. Even the organizers of the competition did not expect such a result. And Kanui Academy, which lost Shi Nian's assassination, also lost a victory again at Lanba Academy. Moreover, the players were basically beaten to pieces by Tang San, who came on the field in anger. Flanders also successfully met Zhao Gang. After seeing his brother become like this, he didn't know what to say. It's really too miserable. Who did he offend? Facing Flanders' questioning, Zhao Gang really had no words to say. He could only grit his teeth and swallow it. As for Tang San, he only had the emotion of using Zhao Gang now. There was even a hint of killing intent in his eyes from time to time. Fortunately, Zhao Gang knew what was good for him. In the following games, he also tried his best to make plans and collect information about the opponents, which made Lanba Academy very recognized. The teams in the selection completely opened up the distance, and the 5 teams in the first group were far ahead. However, the next game will no longer be easy. The opponent of Lanba Academy in the 11th round is the Chiuo Academy in the middle of the 5 Elements Academy, a powerful team composed of all fire attribute soul masters. In this round of competition, the battle between Lanba Academy and Chiuo Academy in the top 5 is undoubtedly the biggest highlight. They were also placed on the center stage without any surprise. Huang Yuan, Jingling, and Zhang Zhu were all a little scared. They had played 10 games in a row. From winning easily in the beginning to facing difficulties later on, they increasingly felt the gap with other colleges. Now they were facing such a top team. Naturally, everyone looked at Yun Feng, who was lying in Miao Miao's arms and eating grapes. Seeing Yun Feng's calm and relaxed look, everyone's eyes flashed with envy. Perhaps only senior Yun Feng could be so calm. Yun Feng naturally noticed the looks of these younger brothers and sisters. Why? Are you feeling the pressure? Chapter 300. The person favored by the Pope. Jiangzu was the first to nod. We are not strong enough, and we are worried that. Yunfeng looked over. Jiangzu was actually a cute girl, but Yunfeng had no idea. However, Yunfeng still listened to her concerns. It's normal to worry about losing. If you want me to play, I don't care as long as my girlfriends agree. As soon as Yunfeng said this, the 4 of them looked at Xiaoyu and others. Xiaoyu and Zhuzuqing looked at each other. They didn't care, but there was someone in the team who was eager to become stronger, so Ning Rong and Zhugu Yan looked at Zhuzuqing together. Zhuzuqing smiled. Although I hope there is pressure, it's not unreasonable. I will definitely take your feelings into consideration. Yunfeng slowly stood up. Miao Miao saw this and hurriedly helped Yunfeng. Yunfeng was helpless when he saw this. During this period of time, Miao Miao almost made him a useless person. He almost didn't help him go to the toilet. It's been a long time since we've had an event, so I'll go on stage and have some fun. You can choose any of the remaining 2, but let me make a deal first. I'll only fight if you can't beat them, which means you have to choose 6 against 7 at the beginning. It's just 6 against 7. They are not panicking at all now, as long as Yun Feng is there to support them. What can they do even if they lose? This is a fact recognized by them, so these are all trivial matters. Yun Feng looked at the relaxed look of the few people, smiled and didn't say much. Before the game started, the stands were already bustling. At least more than 1/3 of the audience were wearing custom-made uniforms that symbolized the Blue Tyrant Academy. These were all taught to Yurlong by Yun Feng. They made a lot of money just by selling these clothes. Although the 5 Elements Academy is also very strong, civilian academies like the Blue Tyrant Academy are more likely to resonate with the audience, especially their strange ratio of men to women. Apart from the 2 workers, Yun Feng is the only captain of this team. Saras, who was in the VIP seat, saw the list of participants this time and his eyes lit up immediately. He has been waiting for a long time. Finally, he is going to play. Sarat really wants to see the strength of this young genius, whether he is as strong as the rumors say. The one favored by the Pope. Yurlong held a detailed introduction to the Blazing Academy in her hand, and her face was obviously a little solemn. These days, she has been studying the strength of the 5 Element Academies, and now she has just found some clues. Holding these materials, she came to the lounge. She heard words that made her mentality collapse a little. Yun Feng is going to play, so what materials should she collect? However, in order not to waste her efforts, Yurlong still cleared her throat and said to Yun Feng and others, "We are all here. Yun Feng, are you going to play this time?" Yun Feng nodded and stretched his head. It's been too long since I took action. Stretch your muscles. Yurlong didn't say anything, just nodded. Let me tell you about the basic information of Blazing Academy. Do you remember the extreme flow and balance flow that Yun Feng mentioned before? As the top academy in the empire, they have also begun to realize that this school is wrong. Time is short. Let me make it short. You have already faced the disciples of the Elephant Armor sect. They are standard extreme flow. In the past, their strength was not much different from the other four-element academies. The reason why they were defeated this time is that the other four-element academies changed their fighting methods. Although they still fight with soul masters of the same attributes, they have already divided the work. In other words, these four-element academies use the balance flow to perform the extreme flow. Do you understand? Yun Feng understood what Liu Erlong meant. Auntie, do you mean that Blazing Academy has begun to learn from each other's strengths and make up for their weaknesses? Liu Erlong looked at Yun Feng, who was thinking so quickly, and nodded with a smile. I was worried at first, but now that you're on the court, I'm a lot more relaxed. The Blazing Academy you're about to face has fire-type strong attacks, fire-type control, fire-type agility attacks, and fire-type assistance. It's just that they didn't show these when facing weak opponents. The Blazing Academy, like the Thunder Academy, is famous for its attacks. Their attacks must be thunderous. So, you must be more careful. If things can't be done, it's better to give up and let Yun Feng take over the game. Just don't get hurt. As the vice-captain, Juzukin also raised her head and nodded slightly. After all, Yun Feng said that they would only take action when they couldn't beat the opponent. If they were not as strong as the opponent, they would still stupidly go forward to get beaten. What else could this be? Time passed in a flash, and soon it was time to start. The host began to mobilize everyone's emotions on the court. Wow, dear audience friends, I got the latest news. The real captain of Blue Tyrant Academy is going to play. Is Blazing Fire Academy putting pressure on Blue Tyrant Academy? They actually invited the captain who had been hiding for 10 games to play. The audience who didn't know the situation also began to cheer. After all, Blue Tyrant Academy was so strong before, and now even the captain is playing in person. How can they not be excited? Everyone is fantasizing about what kind of person it is. Backstage, the players of Blazing Fire Academy also looked rather ugly. Why did they encounter this situation when they were on the stage? They knew those gossips. What Soul King killed Soul Duo, but they still thought it was a bit exaggerated. After all, it was too outrageous. When everyone was frustrated, a beautiful figure stood up. What are you thinking? You won't fight because the opponent is strong, you know. We at Blazing Fire Academy are not those weaklings who are afraid before the battle. Huo Wu's words, like a shot of adrenaline, instantly inspired the fighting spirit of the others. The host's words rang again. In the first round, the center stage, Blue Tyrant Academy vs. Blazing Fire Academy. The host loudly announced the list of players entering the arena. Players from both sides strode into the arena. Yun Feng also did his best to save face. He was smiling all the way, but he didn't get much favor from the audience. After all, this kid was holding Zhao Wu and Juzukin on the stage, and Ning Rong was following behind him. He looked like a second-generation rich kid, which made all the men present hate him. Of course, the men hated him, but the women looked at Yun Feng's handsome face with stars in their eyes. They swore that they had never seen such a handsome man. However, after the brief chaos, Blue Tyrant Academy represented by Yun Feng and others and Blazing Fire Academy represented by Huo Wu and others on the opposite side also went on stage together. The two sides looked at each other, and Huo Wu looked at the handsome man in front of her with a fighting spirit. But Yun Feng didn't have any fighting spirit, and even smiled at Huo Wu. The people from the Blazing Fire Academy on the opposite side were all confused. What was going on? But compared to the atmosphere on the field, the audience was even more enthusiastic. In an instant, the entire stand was like a raging ocean, with cheers coming one after another, some supporting Blazing Academy, but more supporting Blue Tyrant Academy. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.